Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from Nathan Does Beer.
And welcome to episode 12 of the Business of Beer here on BAOS Podcast. Nathaniel, I feel like it's been a while since we've done one, eh?
It has been it's certainly been a while since we've done one together, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely one of our favorite things that we're doing on the pod. We definitely need to focus on doing a bunch more once the event stuff is all in the clear. But
and the listeners seem to love it too.
I was about to say, yes, the if you look at just sheer numbers, these ones tend to do better, which is very, very cool. That there's an interest from. I always wonder, is it the industry or is it like drinkers sort of like tapping into that? I mean, I imagine it's a bit of both, but
yeah,
super
cool
curious. Yeah, it would be cool. So this is a fascinating one, guys. So you might remember I think it was episode 9 of the Business of Beer early this year in February. I sat down with Shahan De Silva from Lost Craft and we talked about the tariff situation, and that has spurred a lot of different things across the world, but here in Canada, a lot of pride in local primarily, and some cool things have come out of that, including what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm excited to get all the details of this and to hear about what how the impact that this can have on the local, whether it's a local economy, the local businesses, the local craft beer scene, like sort of beyond just beer. And I think that's kind of like the cool part, and just to really sort of point out to people specifically how you can support local a little more or a lot more. And some people might not know where to start. And I think this is like a great way to really paint that picture. I'm excited to get into it. All righty, let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me do it. Come on, Craig. Be smooth here. Be smooth. All right, we got this. Please welcome Josh McJannett of Dominion City in the building.
Yeah.
There he is, Uncle Josh. Welcome back, my man.
I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's so good to have you. And we just, you both seem to be quite aware, but it was news to me that it had been probably arguably, I don't want to say it, 4 years since the last time you were on, which is utter disgrace. So very happy.
I'm kept warm by running into you at OCBC and other places. And I've been okay, but it's really good to be here. Yeah.
And Tiff just sent her love. She was going down as I was going down. She goes, "Please make sure you say some love to Josh."
Right back at her.
I did that, brother. Thank you for doing this. Very excited to get into this one. So we figured that for folks who are obviously saw the title, we're going to be talking about the Glorious and Free project from is project the end of the word? I was just kind of referring to that generally, or is it just Glorious and Free?
Yeah, we've been referring to it as a Trans-Canada Brewery collaboration, but project.
I like that.
Too. Yeah.
No, that's much cooler. Trans-Canada Brewery collaboration is cooler. But yeah, man, once we saw that you guys were doing this, we were like, oh, this is phenomenal. This deserves. We could have covered it on the regular season, but we thought that we could get a little more granular about the situation, because obviously this was inspired by recent events, and you and your team and the company are not people to mess around with stuff like this, and you are very methodical and logical and tactical with all this stuff. So we figured there might be a lot of learnings that we could draw out a little more in this format than if we kind of did the regular one. So I think this is very cool, but we also get to get into a phenomenal lineup of Dominion City beers, which is always a pleasure. God damn it!
Well, it's great. Yeah, no, I'm glad we've left you the impression we are methodical and know what we're doing. I wish I felt your confidence. But yeah.
Well, we can just bluff. We can bluff. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think. I don't know if any of us know what we're doing here. We're just trying to not die, I guess. So with that, we're gonna start off with a crispy, which is the best way to start. And we're going to do with this classic one here, Trouble in the Fields, the Heritage Corn Lager, or lager with Heritage Corn. There was another word that started with V. Hang on, I saw it on Untappd. So I remember when I first, Laurentian Adjunct Lager.
Yeah.
Not V.
This beer originally was inspired by a beer we had in North Carolina.
Okay.
And they were making that beer with Heritage Corn that was native to that region. Okay. It was called Bloody Butcher Corn. And they called it an Appalachian Adjunct Lager. So we originally liked that inspiration. But
what was the brewery in North Carolina, if you remember?
Yeah, now you're put on the spot.
Look, you don't have to remember. It's okay. This beer has been around for quite some time now. For folks who may have not seen it.
Yeah, we dropped the Laurentian because we were informed it was confusing people, but in my heart, that's still what it is.
Well, I guess not everyone knows what the Laurentians is. I was in Montreal last week for all the anniversary stuff, and I learned that we went to Sir John, and the Laurentians it's like both north and south, basically all around Montreal. I didn't realize. I thought it was just like the Eastern Townships kind of region.
The Gatineau Hills, which I can see through my window here, are the foothills of the Laurentian Mountains too. So I get some claim. Yeah,
like if you go up the 50 and all the mountains that you go through, I didn't realize that that's what it was. Yeah, which is extra cool. So the heritage corn, for those who might not know, can you just quickly explain what that actually means?
Yeah, when we originally started brewing this beer, we were working with a farm that was growing older varieties of corn. So this is corn that had like longer history in the region. Grew like kind of a pale red color. You didn't see that show up in the beer in the end, but it just had like a much richer flavor. And she was actually milling it and selling it as maize. But anyway, we incorporated that into the beer a long time ago and have continued to work with Ontario supplied heritage varieties of corn for the beer.
That's sick. Silly question. What is maize specifically? I'd have thought it was like a Spanish word for corn.
Yeah, my understanding is like it was basically like corn flour that you might use to make like a corn tortilla or.
Okay, gotcha. Fascinating. Well, if we may, Josh, welcome back. Great to see you, brother.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen. Get that in you. Great head. Look at that head, mate. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. File. They're so smooth. Like, would you? So it's like. It's not like a corn lager, or would you? Because I guess the way it's sort of framed, but is it like a corn lager? Would you call it like a sort of an American style corn lager? Because it's so much flavor is why I say that.
Yeah, I think our association, right, with corn as an adjunct beer, is a certain expectation you have around kind of like a macro-produced, low flavor. And the adjunct is really to keep the beer cheap. I think we, originally wanted to turn that thinking on its head. Drinking that beer in North Carolina, that was sort of the what is this moment, where it just sort of defied expectations. And this beer is still meant to have a lot of flavor, solid ABV, firm bitterness, all those elements. And, so not quite what you expect when you think you're just drinking an adjunct.
No, definitely not. But it's the body's fantastic. It's like obviously there's barley in it as well. There's multiple barley, but
absolutely.
It's like there's it feels like it's 4.5, but it definitely drinks super like it's at least 5%, which kind of almost sounds negligible, but in this style, I feel like it's quite meaningful.
It makes a difference for sure.
Yeah,
and
like there's
the clarity is impeccable.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It's great grassy bitterness, super like great. The grain profile works super well. Like if I drank this blind, I wouldn't have thought there would be corn in it. This fire, dude. And how often do you bring this one back?
This one comes in and out a couple times a year. It's actually destined for the LCBO as a seasonal for summer, so it's should be hitting the shelf in the next couple weeks.
It's definitely feeling like a summer beer for sure because it's a little lighter but full flavored, which is kind of what you're after these days. Beautiful.
I'm glad it's in the spot. Yeah, right on.
Love it. Great way to set this off. So down to business. So the Glorious and Free Trans-Canadian Brewery collaboration is a dope, such a cool concept. So for people who haven't seen it yet or haven't read about it or seen any of the beers released by many of the breweries, there you go. Nate's got that bad boy right there for those watching to show the artwork, which is also beautiful. Can you just explain, let's start at the beginning, like what is the project and then sort of, how it all started, what the inspiration was for it?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, the project is truly like a collaboration of independent breweries from coast to coast to coast. At this point, there are just about 40 of us representing every province and Yukon territory. Nice. Breweries that have come together to collaborate on a recipe using 100% Canadian ingredients. So everything from yeast, barley, hops, water, goes without saying. And really to try to make a point and to harness the power of local beer. And I think this is probably the most important element for me, but not just to make a beer and ask people to support us in a potentially tough moment, but to harness the power of local beer to do some good, which was take a portion of the proceeds from every can sold to support causes that make the social fabric of the country stronger at what has been feeling like a dark moment.
Very cool. The charitable side, is that sort of each brewery would choose who they donate to, or is it sort of
Yeah, so the campaign when we launched it, I mean, a bit like Canada itself, Craig, I feel like you're probably well accustomed to this now, but we're a big country, right? And
sure
I think
is.
we've learned a long time ago that running things command control from Ottawa doesn't work well. And so one of the elements we wanted to bring to the campaign was a bit of a confederation, which was to say, like, look, we have a recipe and we have a list of local suppliers we like. You're welcome to use them. Use our recipe as a base. But if you're on PEI or in Nova Scotia and you like Shoreline malt instead of Mississippi Mills malt, which is near and dear to us here in the Ottawa region, use them. If you've got hop growers from BC and you're in Alberta or British Columbia, go with their hops. And so the interpretation around the styles varies from brewery to brewery, although the inspiration is really our recipe. And then the same thinking was applied to the beneficiaries for who was going to stand to benefit, which was, we've got kind of 4 pillars in our campaign where, we know we want to do some good. We know we want it to broadly be about a couple key causes, but we didn't want to tell people like, this is the one cause you've got to support. And so we sort of laid out 4 pillars, connection to land and people, getting together, that is organizations that strengthen our social fabric, welcoming communities, so contributing to a community where everybody belongs, and what we called for generations, but that was really about supporting creativity and the ambition behind the people who are trying to make the country better and stronger. So it's been really inspiring for me as someone who was there at the beginning of the campaign to see what everybody's done with this and where they've taken that and the causes that are being supported through this campaign. Everything from Indigenous services organizations to 2S LGBTQ plus groups, Refugee Welcome, the Lions Club, a veterans organization, you name it. And I actually think that's a strength and not a weakness, that it's that diverse, but I think everybody's found ways to do something that really resonates either in their community or in their corner of the country, and sort of unified under this one banner. So that's been really rewarding.
That's sick, man. I love that. I like the pillars as well, that you got like actual, like, so this is clearly extraordinarily thought through from a
we tried to think about it. I mean, we can talk about how it started too. I can't say it was totally well thought through when we started, but no, it began as a walk in the snow.
Okay.
To be honest with you. I think just a lot of people, January, even before that, I mean, large parts of 2024, and I know this is not a political podcast, but you had a sense that some of what we're living through now was on the way. Mm-hmm. I was at the Ontario Craft Brewers Conference in Hamilton in November, as were you, and I clearly remember having a few beers, heading back to my hotel, aware of what the United States of America had decided for the rest of the world, and just really kind of waking up the next morning after a few beers and having that reality sink in. But by January, as I say, walking home from the brewery, I live fortunate enough to live close enough that I can walk home and ski home even when there's the trail. But I had a snowy walk and I just felt frustrated and powerless. Just felt angry and overwhelmed and not wanting to feel any of those things. And there's not a lot I control. Just a guy who runs a brewery, but I do control what beer we make. I control who we buy the stuff from to make that beer, and I control what the impact of that beer could be. And I wanted to do all those things, and I wanted to team up with other people who wanted to do the same thing. And I think the feedback we've heard from our customers is they're feeling that same sense of urgency. They're feeling that same frustration about feeling like there's nothing I can do, and I'm just tired of waking up every morning worried about what somebody in the White House decided they're going to do. I want to do something proactive, positive, and that's what we tried to serve up with this project.
Interesting. That makes sense. It is putting the power into the hands of you guys and all of your colleagues in the industry and fellow businesses, which is great. And that's what we do have as far as anything, is that purchasing power. Says, where do we put our money? And that's a vote in and of itself. Where can we do that? And if we can put it local, obviously that's been the sentiment. Like we were in Florida the whole time all of this was going on. We got there the day on February 1st, the day that all this shit went down. I'm like, fuck, I'm about to post American beer for the next 6.5 weeks. And no one really drilled me. Only one person commented. I'm just like, I wish these were all Canadian beers. I'm like, what do you want me to do, darling? Want me to bring like 6 cases of beer down? I'm sorry. Like, I'll be back soon. Fuck. And it's not their fault. I don't feel like that's one thing that people do miss with all this. Why we're frustrated with the government, but the people of America, just like here, like they're just people who are trying to make the best for their lives and run businesses too. And they're frustrated because they got fucked as well. The American breweries, all the malts up here, you know, so 100%. It's they're
and the bauxite, you know, they got the aluminum rolls, but we got the bauxite and that's right. and the cheap hydroelectricity. And nobody's winning. I think that's one of the main things. And I know that kind of came up in your February podcast as well. But there's really no winners here.
There isn't. I kept talking to different people, saying, is there some sort of like game plan that's like positive here? Is there anything? Because like, why would you just go and do this? But I wasn't able to get any satisfactory answers because it's, you know, you can't just click your fingers and then all the all the factories are built. It's going to take time, like, and all of that stuff. So yeah, I just feel like I want to make that point again. Just I feel like people still, even to this day, people got mad at us. So I can say it publicly. The people got mad that we had 2 American breweries at our event. I'm like, Doug, this was once again 9 months ago. It was arranged longer, and the 38 Canadian breweries is held at a Canadian breweries, Canadian DJ, Canadian food. It's ran by Canadians. Like, what more do you want? And they're good people who are excited and make phenomenal beer. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like people need to. This is something like Glorious and Free is such a much more practical and positive place to put that maybe frustration, as you were talking about, as opposed to like being mad at the American breweries. Oh, I'm not going to not supporting. Like, cool, bro. Well, how about you support these ones and don't worry about that? Just, you know. I think that's you're giving people an opportunity to, I don't know, to vent that frustration in a better way, which I think is.
You know what? You actually made a great point, better than I could have made it. But I think actually one of my pet peeves about that I think, you know, I would really love to address is, like, you know, positively or negatively, for too long, our sense of identity has been in contrast to the United States. You know, and I just think. It's this, like, this immaturity we got to grow through as a country, to just stand on our own 2 feet, for better or for worse, to be who we are, and to be good with it. And I kind of hope this project is like a tiny little nudge of a baby step in that direction, because to your point, they're good people in America. Half the country just about voted for somebody else and are as appalled as we are, and frankly, more negatively impacted by it even than we are, and they're going to be living with that for a long time. And it's just kind of immature. And I think one thing we got time to talk about, and I want to say thank you. Like, the format for this podcast actually allows a lot of depth if you want to go there. But I think there is, frankly, an ugliness to nationalism. I think, you know, we're familiar with looking south of the border and feeling that way. Mm-hmm. We should be self-aware enough to admit that there can be an ugliness to nationalism here too. And I think it was important early on in this project, and we talked about this as breweries, but we wanted this to be a positive articulation. We wanted this to be good. We wanted this to do something good. But, you know, let us not just blindly gloss over things about this country that aren't done yet. Canada is an imperfect work in progress, and I was reticent about anything that would land like cheerleading. You know, at the end of the day, I love this country. There's lots to be proud of here, but we're not perfect, and we're not done. And it isn't enough to just say, look at how ugly things are south of the border. We can do more here. And frankly, that was why it was so important that the project harness the power of local beer to make the country, you know, 0.00005% better through some of these causes. And so that is the hope and the effort.
Very well said, man.
So well said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Patriotism is it can be a really fine line, between being proud of where you're from and turning and that becoming kind of like a cudgel to wield in against someone else. And there, it's kind of pointless, and it makes you blind to your own shortcomings. That it's exactly what you said. we shouldn't be. Yeah, like it shouldn't always just be like, oh, okay, now I'm like, now I'm not going to drink American beer anymore for the next 6 months, and then when things calm down a little bit, I'm like, okay, I guess we're fine now. I can drink American beer again. Like it's so arbitrary and pointless. It's like, and it doesn't really accomplish anything. Whereas I think this is a much more productive way to kind of celebrate what we do have here in Canada, and kind of how we can have a local focus without it without it being kind of a negative about like an us instead of them sort of thing. Like that's where it gets kind of ugly.
Yeah. And I think this is a good jumping off point too for the stuff that's in the can in this beer. But transparently, our brewery buys all kinds of hops from the United States, from New Zealand, from elsewhere.
Of course,
we when called for, we buy Pilsner malt from Germany. Like we're proud to brew with great ingredients, regardless of where they're from. Having said that, the fact remains that we have world-class producers here, and we only have them because we have an industry that will support them. And I think one of the things that would be fair to criticize us, I include myself in this, is that sometimes we have been too cavalier, too careless about actively nourishing and supporting some of these satellite producers and others in our industry who are really important. I say all the time, when we opened, we were like 2 or 3 hop harvests after like a major hop crop failure in the Pacific Northwest. And if you were buying your hops, as we were at that time, on spot, that is to say, you don't have a contract for your hops, you just kind of buying stuff that was left over and extra. It was like weirdly dicey. And I have a clear memory of that. Even at that time, it was weirdly dicey. You weren't sure you were going to get what you wanted when you wanted to get it. And so one of the things I think about too is it's important that we have a domestic hop growing industry here. We are one really bad smoke season from having a smoked out hop crop in the Pacific Northwest. It's already happened to the wine harvest in California. We will be kicking ourselves to have let our domestic Canadian hop industry die if that's what we do. And I think we have great producers. I want to make sure that, like us, they are here on the other side of whatever is going on with beer these days. So I think it's an opportunity as well to just remind ourselves, you want these things locally, you want that capacity, you better buy it, you better nourish it.
That's a really good point. On that note, you mentioned the liquid in the can, which I'm fairly sure I know the answer, but to confirm, is it like to me, for people who are still getting their head around it, like if people remember Black is Beautiful from Weathered Souls there, the prescription was a stout, and we've seen stouts that were 5% or some that were like 11 that people dropped. So and then some with adjuncts, some not, some barrel aged, etc. Is this a similar thing where the base is a style and then people can go and do what they want from there?
So the style wasn't, we wanted to make a hoppy beer.
Beer, hence the
and our interpretation of it was,
Westy?
hazy, sort of Northeast inspired recipe.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yes. But having said that, we have Muse Brewing, who have their own approach. They actually grew their own estate hops. And if I'm not mistaken, barley as well to make their version of the beer. And they have a house yeast that is like a kind of like a Saison farmyard strain. So their interpretation is totally different than ours. And again, I think that's super cool. But yeah, if you go to gloriousandfree.beer, where the campaign kind of lives and is housed, and you can see who's participating, the recipe is a click away. And it's easy to scale down to a homebrew size if you're into that. And that was very much on purpose as well. We wanted to put this recipe in people's hands.
I love it. So I thought it would have been a Westie because and the only reason I assumed that once again, large assumption, just because the hops that we predominantly would have access to that are grown locally are more fitting for the style. There's nothing really crazy, juicy and tropical for a New England IPA. So
Craig, you've given me the door open moment I needed to plug our hop.
Jump in.
Plug
no,
away.
You're absolutely right. That has always been the reputation for certainly Ontario grown hops, but I think even more broadly, Canadian grown hops that have had that reputation, right? Is that Canadian Cascades is maybe going to be a little more grassy. And I remember lots of conversations. Yeah, Centennial, Sea hops, Chinook. Great for bitterness, but to your point, like, maybe more appropriate for kind of a classic drier West Coast style. The grower we chose to work with on our recipe is an hour's drive up the Ottawa River from our brewery, just on the Quebec side. They're a farm called Houblonnière-Lupiline, and family-owned farm. They're incredibly talented and lovely people, but they have the only Canadian-grown Eldorado, and we were actually able to use Canadian-grown Eldorado in our recipe, and I think that really tipped the scale when Jesse and our team was working with the team to develop the recipe. I think that tipped this into like let's make a hazer, let's make something that's softly bitter and rich, and it worked. I think
that's awesome.
And the feedback, I have to say too, the feedback from a lot of the other breweries has been, I didn't realize Canadian hops did this.
That's so cool. You know what's funny? I was at we're doing a collab with Bigfoot Brewing in Toronto, and I was up there on Tuesday for a collab day. I swear he was telling me about it, and I hadn't heard about a particular Canadian brewery doing their own version of Eldorado, which is like game changing. And apparently it's like just two like a brother and sister owned.
That's right.
Farm, yeah.
It's Mireille and Charles Allard, and they're amazing.
I met her at. Do you remember when we met at CBA's 2017 in Ottawa? Yep. And we did the first pod then after, God, what a horrendous, fuck, we were all of us were just dying, like, and
yes, I won't forget.
Jeez, that was a good time. But I met her that night. Yes, I remember. That's how I knew the name for that, but I didn't put two and two that was her. That's so cool. Good for them. So they licensed it, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? From the original, whether it's YCH or whoever owns the patent?
That's my understanding. Is they basically licensed the intellectual property, and then of course they're growing it in their own
Quebec
soil and with our and so it's
different inherently, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should have them on to talk about it sometime. But
that'd be great.
Yeah, they're great.
Is do you know, and this is like obviously you're not the hop grower here, but like, is that a thing that could be done? Like, for example, a Canadian hop grower who's got the best arguable climate, whether that's in BC or which probably sounds more likely, could they license like Citra and fucking whatever Simcoe and Mosaic and stuff like that and be able to grow that on our side of the border?
It's a great question. To be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever encountered a case like that. My understanding of the way this works, though, in big hop producing regions is an individual grower or farmer will license the intellectual property to buy the root seed basically to grow the crop. And I think it could work similarly. I don't know why we haven't seen more of it here, but one point to make too is, and I don't think they'd be uncomfortable with me sharing this, but Mireille reached out early in the campaign and told me candidly that there were two major Quebec hop growers that have folded up in the last 12 months, and that they weren't sure they weren't going to be the third, weren't sure that they were going to plant a harvest this year because things haven't been easy for the last number of years. And, she let me know that through this campaign, there've been enough new breweries discovering their hops or placing orders, filling boxes and putting them in the mail to St. John's, Newfoundland, and Whitehorse, Yukon, and elsewhere. And I think she's actually been able to translate that into even just kind of small contracts and ongoing commitments that they're back. And they plan to be putting down hop vines again this summer. And I just think that's great. I think we need it. And for all the reasons we've already talked about, I just think it would be a disservice for us to lose that ability. And I think they're one of the best growers in the country.
Man, that's cool as shit. That means it's already a win. You already saved the business with the project.
Yeah. I'm not going to claim credit for it. I think their hops saved their business, but I do think it's really cool that breweries have chosen to rally behind our local producers and that they're seeing some benefit from it. That was the hope.
Yeah,
that's
if this kind of thing puts them onto more breweries in a way that allows them to keep going, that's already such a huge win, and and really speaks to the importance of this project to just kind of, as you were saying, just remind people that these ingredients grow here. And and it's important to buy, if you're buying Eldorado, why not buy it from a grower in Quebec?
Yeah, and I think sometimes I'm really talking about us and Dominion City, but it's just easy sometimes to fall into I don't know. I know this stuff works. Why would I take a risk on a new thing, you know? And I think we're all guilty of that to some extent, but
sure.
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, I should mention too that, we started working with Uganya Lupulin for our recipe. If you're on our website, we actually have a list of suppliers, and there's other great hop growers, Hey-Ho Hops in Southwestern Ontario, who we worked before, Hop Bomb, Hops Connect.
Backroads.
There's a bunch. Myrtle Meadows, Strathroy Hops. So, and that's the cool thing too, is throughout the campaign, other breweries have been telling us, please add this supplier. I'm working with them and they're great. So it's been a living, breathing thing as we go along.
I just noticed they're all clickable links too, so people go direct to the website from for all the other local suppliers, and there's malt here as well for people. Yeah, there's all the malters.
Yeah, there's yeast.
Yeah,
Escarpment, Lalamond, Lalabo.
Yeah. So for your beer, it's using the Lupulin Eldorado. Was there any other hops in it from any other yards, or was it just the Eldorado from Lupulin in this one?
We use their Centennial and Chinook as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
It's interesting too on canning day. And I mean, it's not unusual, I find, but there was like a little bit more of that kind of like traditional grassiness, a little more like firm bitterness. And I found like even after a week or two in the can, it really started to change, and it kind of moved. It sort of grew into its Eldorado sort of tropical quality.
Eldorado is a funny hop that way, where it can really evolve and change over time, and also just present so differently depending on the beer and the other hops that it's used in conjunction with. It's a funny one that way. You mentioned Mississippi Mills. Is that I assume that they were the malts that you used for it?
We did, yeah. I don't know if your listeners would be familiar with them or not, but I mean, Dean Bose and his family have a small malting outfit in rural Eastern Ontario, and we've been customers.
Uh-oh.
Yep, got a little bit frozen there. Go kick back in, I'm sure.
Am I back?
Oh, you're back. You just said you've been a customer of theirs. Nah, dude, happens. People are used to it. Internet. You've been a customer of them, and that's where it cut it.
Yeah, customer of theirs for years. Lots of other breweries in our region and other parts of Ontario have been buying from Dean for a long time. But I just think it's really cool. You go and visit him, and he's literally got his neighbors growing barley for his malt outfit. Whereas before they might have been growing corn and soy and just commodity crop that disappears at the end of their road at the end of the harvest season. You never know if it became corn syrup or dog food or whatever else. And I think there's a certain pride that a farmer takes from being able to see somebody holding what they grew in a glass and enjoying it at a brewery 100 clicks away. And I think Dean's been that missing middle piece to be able to unlock what someone grows in a field outside of Ottawa, so someone inside Ottawa can drink it. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's to borrow an overused phrase here. That's the story of grain to glass right there, and that's pretty great.
Yeah, and a brewery can't do it without a maltster, and that's just such a. My wife's a miller. She runs a small stone mill and sourdough bakery, and we talk about this a lot because I think she's also like that missing middle that we haven't had for a long time. Is if the only mill is a massive commercial rolling mill 1,000 kilometers away, there's no way to eat what grows in a field outside Ottawa as a brownie or a cookie or a loaf of bread. You need a small producer with that special skill set and equipment, and Dean is that. And I think that's another thing we got to keep nurturing.
That's so
absolutely.
Dope. Has this the last question before we go to the next beer? The Eldorado and the other, is that sold you on working with them deeper now, as far as you use multiple of their hops for the Glorious and Free beer, but now are you let's try and slide in their stuff in as many products as possible?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that we're one of at least a handful of breweries who've now signed a contract for their harvest later this year. So amazing. We'll be working with more of it. Yeah.
That's dope, brother. I love to hear it. This is sick. You can keep going. I know. Are you guys good for the next one?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So shall we? Do you want to? You can let us know whatever you think is best, my man.
Why don't we go to a wheat beer? Let's just totally switch gears here.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Same beer, different packaging, right? Because there's a couple different ones. Yes, I wasn't sure. I was like, I had them both.
That's right. Sorry, I thought you were referring to like, do we just like wrap the corn lager in?
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
No, I hear you. Yes, that's right.
The two different. Hang on, which way am I facing? This way. Two different packages. Oh, you got the blue one, Nate. Hey.
Yep, and I have one other one as well, but it's in the fridge and I can't reach it right now. So
I respect it.
We'll go with just showing these three.
Yeah, do you want to break this one down, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, this was really an initiative led by our brewery manager, Jacinda, and the women of Dominion City. It was brewed for International Women's Day, and it's called Space Maker, and it's meant to be a celebration of women who've made space for other women in the brewing industry. The team came up with the style. They wanted to make a kind of classic wheat beer. They wanted it to be relatively dry and kind of fruit forward, not a ton of that kind of coriander character, but it's been great feedback. The reason the can designs are the way they are, there's 6 different designs, and we basically used each can design to profile a different space maker in beer, going all the way back centuries and to people who are still living, breathing, and contributing now. So every label features a different space maker.
That's dope. And so this was for International Women's Day, which I believe is early March.
That's right.
From memory. Okay. That's fantastic. How do you guys normally do a wheat beer at all?
To my knowledge, I think we've only done a wheat beer once.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound familiar. Okay, nice.
You know, and I think that was kind of part of the discussion, as well as the team wanted to make something that was a little bit different for us.
Right. Which makes sense, and particularly for an occasion which is like this, and the different packaging is pretty cool. Did people like want to collect them all type thing?
Yeah, I think we saw some of that for sure, and it seemed to work well as a draft option as well. A lot of restaurants, it seemed to go faster than I think we expected, which is cool.
Yeah, I guess they're not the most common style out these parts. I like in Quebec, I remember there's living there. There's always I feel like wheat beers are kind of like pretty popular, much more common. Yeah, but very cool. How did you select the women for that each label celebrates?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit iterative. I mean, there was to be honest, there was a Globe and Mail story from a couple of years, and there were a few of the women who ended up being profiled on the labels were kind of mentioned in the story, talking about this idea. The name for the beer actually came from this Globe story about women who'd made space, and yeah, I mean, some of them we had a direct relationship with, some of them we didn't know, but I think all of them have a really cool story to tell.
That's so dope. I love it.
And I think it's a cool idea too. For me, one element is just like how not new this is. And I mean, that's not what this episode is really about, but frankly, women have more claim to beer than men do, if we really want to get down to it and go back far enough, as you probably know. And just, how many women have been involved in this industry over centuries.
Very cool. Definitely a super worthy cause. So, gentlemen, get that one on you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Definitely got that wheat beer nose. I haven't had a wheat beer in forever.
I never thought we'd do it, but we actually served this one with an orange slice at the tap room. So 2014 me would be rolling over this.
Oh yeah.
I thought about this the other day. There was this place in Melbourne called the Belgian Beer Cafe, and I didn't know jack shit about beer, but we used to love going there because you get like the Hoegaarden. And they give you that with the orange slice on it, and it was like, oh, that was money. You still love that back in the day.
Again, we're sort of floating out. I know this isn't this episode, but we did such a disservice to ourselves for so long. All this fun pageantry around beer, and we convinced ourselves it's not cool. You don't put an orange in the beer. People love an orange slice in their beer. We should have gotten over ourselves a decade ago. Maybe we wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. If we just give up the snobbiness about it and like, what? This is actually kind of fun.
This is dope. And you know what? No one's putting an orange slice in a glass of wine, so we should have just embraced it.
Same with the lime slice at the bottom of a what do you call it?
At the bottom of a Corona, it fucking works, man.
You're not gonna have a Mexican lager really without the lime in it, or a Corona specifically. Yeah. It's part of the thing. Squeeze that little bad boy, and you go, oh fuck, it's too thick. Force it in. It's like, then I got the stuff everywhere. It's like part of the fun.
That's right. I want it exploding out of the neck of the beer. As
I want to get in your eye, and you got citric acid burning, and good times, right?
So I know I'm on vacation.
Yeah, the citric acid. Yeah, hospital ER visits.
That's right.
This is this is great, man. It's what I would say the quintessential wheat beers. Reminds me of like Blanche Assembly in Quebec, like something like that's orange peel, coriander, but not over the top. Like it's super. Those flavors are absolutely there, but it's very approachable, super crushable.
Yeah. It's got a grainy like malt profile, but it's still quite light and crushable. Solid.
Just the right sweetness. Yeah, man. Good shit. Cheers. For people who like wheat beers, would be stoked for it, and probably extra fun coming from you guys for like you said, if you've only done it maybe once before in your 10+ years. It's I'm sure there's going to be a decent faction of your audience who'd be pretty stoked for it, which is awesome. I love it. Well, I feel like this is a pretty relevant beer to send tonight because this is like it's a good cause, and so is Glorious and Free is a phenomenal cause as well. So I think this is on brand as fuck, my guy. I love it.
I'm glad. Right on.
So okay, beautiful. This is great. Yeah, Nate, run it.
Yeah. So we've for your version of it, we've covered hops, we've covered malt. I'm assuming the yeast is Escarpment Labs.
If we're going to throw to guess, Escarpment Foggy London, and no, they're great. I actually had the occasion to go and get a tour down there when I was in Guelph a month and a half ago. They were very gracious and showed me around, but it was my first time checking out their yeast lab, and it was amazing. It's very cool. And again, just like this is an Ontario company that's selling into the United States. It's making a quality product and doing a good job of it, and we need to support that as breweries.
100%. Yeah, and we just had them on the pod. Like the one that just dropped this week actually was with Richard and Nate, and cool. That was fantastic, and just kind of exploring the range of beers in Ontario. Just on the pod, obviously they go far outside of Ontario with the scale that they've got, but it's kind of wild to think of the range of beers that their yeast is a part of in Canada.
Yeah, big time. And they've been great.
Yeah, they were very cool that you're rocking with them. Yeah, it was like we didn't know a lot about yeast. I feel like it's the ingredient that you talk about the least aside from water in beer, and it was cool to get it from them. I didn't realize they were in Guelph, which is pretty sweet. So I'm curious to see the space. I imagine they got some pretty cool gadgets out there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the thing I've learned probably too slowly as well is that yeast is so important to your business as a brewery. Is that having a fermentation that works, that's dependable, having yeast that you can use generation after generation, that's healthy. It's the dollars and cents that doesn't get a ton of attention that can make or break a business. So it's critical.
Yeah, very cool. And once again, as sort of I guess Nate brought it up, it's Canadian as fuck. It doesn't get more local than that, and they don't just serve Ontario. They must be the biggest are up there in Canada. Are they as far as as far as yeast labs can go?
Lalemant, I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't realize until recently that Lalemant is a Canadian company. They're based in Quebec.
Yes.
They do everything from baker's yeast to brewer strains as well. But I think they'd probably be the biggest by volume. But
right.
But certainly from a craft
specialized
independent standpoint, I think Escarpment has the market cornered. Yeah.
Gotcha. Which is they were saying that they do the distro, I think, for Lalemant in the beer world. And they're super stoked to leverage them for to tap the knowledge base for those guys, because they have been around for something like 100 years or something from my understanding.
Yeah,
which is pretty dope. But that's another great example of we were using that pod as well to kind of talk about this type of stuff. As in we were just all right, tell us why, sell it to the people. Why should they buy Canadian yeast? And it's there was so many reasons that you've got, and all of their reasons I think apply to the Canadian maltsters, the Canadian hop growers as well. there's for the business, like a B2B type of thing. Like if Dominion's buying from Escarpment, you've got someone that you can actually, if you're just buying from whatever, somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the States, that they might not be as readily available, or you can physically go there, or they could come to you in case you're having any problems. And then they said they've got Lallemand to lean on for anything that they can't answer. So they're able to go to these guys who've been around for so long. So it's kind of just like this in-depth knowledge base that's there to serve their clients, which was I just thought that was like super cool. And then once again, if you want to keep it local, there's obviously other benefits that they got employees that is serving, and it's like it's continuing, it's helping. I imagine they're all probably around Guelph, but either way, like they had a whole bunch of reasons that people can listen to the pod on. It was episode 196. It's sick, man. I like that you got that going on as well. And then they just merged with Le Labo, so the Quebec side. So right. Both of them are it got everything covered. They do different things the way they're explaining it. Like Le Labo does, I do forget exactly which, but they sort of specialize in some things, and Escarpment were better with other things. So it's sort of like a nice sort of well-rounded, company that can service the whole country like easily with everything.
I mean, one thing that was cool walking around their facility was there's a lot of smart people who went to school to do specialized things, and to see them making a product to make another product here in Canada with that expertise, rather than, I don't know, go into a lab in Europe or something to make drugs. It's just kind of cool. You realize there's like a lot of very talented, mostly University of Guelph, I think, graduates working there, and they're running around what's essentially a brewery floor, making a high value product. And it's cool that those jobs are getting created by little companies like Escarpment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I guess they're on the website too, on the Glorious and Free website, as far as the suppliers. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Escarpment Labs, and you got the Lab and Lallemand. Oh, here. Perfect. Yeah, that's sick. I love it. Okay. This is great, man. So when I guess probably a better one, this project, is it like, because how I guess Black is Beautiful is essentially ongoing. Like you could do it in 2020, but you could do it right now if you want to. Is it the same deal with Glorious and Free?
I think it remains to be seen. Okay. When we launched it, I assumed this was time sensitive. I mean, there's a little bit about it that it's like this was the moment to do this, and I think breweries understood that as well. We asked breweries when they signed up, if you can, make your beer before the end of May. We'd love to have releases come out, because I think part of what we want to be able to explain to people too is the impact at the end.
What was it? Why end of May? By the way, just quick.
It was February when we were releasing ours.
Yeah.
And so, we wanted to give people an opportunity. Not everybody's planning their tanks as last minute as we used to. So you wanted to give those breweries that had, forward planning skills an opportunity to say yes. But we also wanted it to kind of happen within a window. And I think the campaign's arguably benefited from that, because I think one of the things that's happened is there's this sort of initial wave of interest in Ottawa and in Ontario, and then it's kind of rippled out in fairly short order. And some of the interest is kind of built off of, okay, my brewery in my neck of the woods here in Halifax or St. John's or Vancouver is having their release. And that's just something I've heard about recently. I didn't expect this, but our can is actually going to be the LCBO for the summer.
Oh, dang.
So that'll be available in a couple weeks' time. And that already surpasses my initial expectation. I didn't even necessarily know we'd do it again. But one thing I realized was we probably should have planned a second batch sooner than we did, because there was a lot of interest after it sold out in about 10 days back in February, March. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So LCBO is that's a large like telltale sign of where people's heads are at as far as the interest of the largest alcohol purchaser in the world wanting to place it in their stores. Shows that they obviously ripped. That was funny being in Florida. I'm like, I want to see video, but they were like, yeah, February 1st they're gonna rip all the American shit off the shelf. I'm like, fuck, I want to see this. This looks crazy. And then they didn't do it, and I think they did it later on while we were there or something, because I think then it came back to 30 days elapsed. That was the initial pushback, and then they were just like, you know what? I don't care what's happening. We're taking this off.
Yeah.
And which is such a man. That's such a ballsy move. Like I gotta hand it to him, man. If you're really gonna just be like, oh, it's like that, okay, let's go. I mean, I'm sorry to the American producers because it's mostly probably like wineries and bourbon and such, which a lot of them are smaller companies as well. Like they're not all big conglomerates that everyone might think they are, but it's kind of gangster, to be honest. I thought that was like, all right, okay.
Canada's when you don't hold a lot of cards, you got to play the ones you got.
Well. You got to play them, and that was one large card. I think that was one very strong card. So the fact that they're interested in something like this obviously is very much aligned. Like it's actually not surprising based off of that. So it's that's really cool, and it shows that maybe that they're you said it was going to be a summer seasonal.
That's right.
Yeah, so that means they're even looking ahead for the next like 3-4 months, and they're willing to. They're like, man, we want to be. Well, take a chance, but also push that message that buy local, buy extraordinarily local, like get as local as you goddamn can, and it's coming from them. That's pretty meaningful, I think, in a way that's both from the consumer side and from the business side. I know.
I say two things. I think if this is actually an area where the government of Ontario deserves some credit. I think, and I think we were not shy, and I have not been shy in the past of leveling my criticism or urging them to do something. And there's always more that I want them to do. But I will say, at the end of the day, I think certainly when it comes to what goes on the shelves of, like you said, the largest purchaser of beverage alcohol in the world, I think they have played that card, and they have made an attempt to shore up local industry. And I think that's the mandate, frankly, that they've handed over to the LCBO, is they said, we want you to be an instrument to support local industry. And I think some of those steps are being taken now. And I will just give a shout out to the team who does the beer buying. Is in my experience, they're very receptive, and they listen, and they want to give Ontario beer consumers good products and a good selection, and to be locally reflective. And I know everybody's got quibbles, and that's fair, but at the end of the day, they're a small team that works pretty hard, and I think it's a credit to them.
Yeah. And the folks who are doing the buying for the stores, like they appreciate the product, and and they love Ontario beer. Like, I mean, that wouldn't be like the whole reason they're doing that that's a job that exists there. Like people, like the people doing those jobs that you hear from other breweries who deal with the buyers, like they love Ontario beer, like which is a lovely thing to see. Like you say, you can say a lot of things about the LCBO, but so, everyone has like a certain set of stores in their city where they like really love the buyers at one store because they're just so passionate about Ontario beer. Like people like that work in the LCBO too.
Great. Totally. I mean, we talk all the time about like what do we do as a team? So you get on the shelf somewhere. What do you do to actually influence how many cans you're going to sell once you're on the shelf? I actually think the most important determination in how well you're going to sell is how passionate is that beer ambassador in that store about local beer. I think that is probably the single most impactful thing. And like you said, I think a lot of those people in those jobs do care. Not everybody, but I think a lot of them do, and it sure as hell makes a difference when they do care.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Even just on the one near my brother at Queen and Coxwell. Like I used to trade stuff, bring stuff from Quebec and trade it with him. He was the main beer buyer there. That store was fire. I haven't been in a while, but it was so sick. He had everything from everybody, and it was like, wow, you can't walk in there and think that the person in charge of this doesn't know what they're doing. Like it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I wish it was happening in more stores.
Yeah, and it's a thing that even as a consumer, you can tell that there's a difference in some stores. You can tell that there are some stores in your city that will have stuff that nowhere else in the city does, because they're hustling. They've made contacts at at local breweries, and they know what their customers want, and they're they might be tracking Dominion City's got this coming out, so they might be calling up Josh or Jesse or whoever and saying I want this, I want this on the shelves, and that might be the only LCBO in London that you can get it, or something like that. Everyone, every city has that store.
I think you're right. Oddly enough, it's sort of an interesting sidebar, but as an Ottawa brewery, one of the interesting things to me is that we're actually the the beer store locations and the top LCBO locations for Ontario craft. Like 6 out of the top 10 in both those segments are in Ottawa.
Really?
Innis and 10th Line here in the east end of Ottawa is the number one craft store in the province and has been pretty regularly. But Toronto has been drinking tequila and Ottawa's still drinking craft beer. God bless them.
I always appreciated the one on Bank Street.
Well, Bank Street's a long street. There's a lot of them.
Okay. The one, I'm obviously a foreigner. The one that's not far from, like, if someone isn't from Ottawa and they're going to go to Bank Street, it's that main part, like near, not too far from Flora Hall, I guess, and like all of that. There's one
Bank of McLeod.
Yeah, Bank of McLeod's the one.
That one. Yeah, that one was always really cool to me because it was the one where whenever I came from out of town, I always went to that store and I was able to get stuff for, like, it would save me 10 visits. I'd be like, sick, I can get everybody's stuff there. And I feel like they always had like fresh and just things that I was always like, whoa, like they don't have this in Toronto or anywhere else. Like it was always very cool. And I that was one of the only places I saw that was that aggressive as far as supporting local.
It's true, and that's not even like, and it's not even a large LCBO. It being right in Centertown, it doesn't have the real estate for it. So it's a fairly small store, but it does have a big beer fridge in it. And you're right, it is usually pretty well stocked. If there's anything that is kind of like hard to find at LCBOs, like in the city, that is one that will tend to stock it.
Yeah, very cool. I like seeing that though. This is almost like a cool like side effect of all of this stuff is that now that the LCBO has their eyes on local a bit more, it gives local producers potentially, like, did this probably maybe now a question for you, Josh, did this open up more opportunity for other breweries to be able to land products in the LCBO because now they have all these empty shelves that potentially they might need to fill, or is it, has it not really transitioned?
Is that thing is exactly what's happened, is that the space made up for by pulling US products has there's actually it's the first time in my experience that has happened, but normally the LCBO is working 6 months ahead on seasonal SKUs, but this is the first time I'm aware that they introduced kind of like a bonus summer listing for breweries to be able to apply for, that I think was basically a consequence of having extra room because of other pulled SKUs. And frankly, the least impact was in beer, because so many of the kind of major American brands actually brew domestically, right? And they're still on the shelf. Yeah, spirits and wine are the ones that you really notice this huge vacuum around shelf space. But I think beer has benefited somewhat from that too.
Okay, so I was actually even thinking that they would put, which is actually kind of silly, that they would put, because I know some LCBOs aren't the most thoughtful. If they don't have that walk-in fridge, they would put beer and all that stuff on the Walmart shelves, which always rubbed me the wrong way. But I guess that comes down to what you said, the beer ambassador being like, guys, what are you doing? Like, I would see Haze on these warm shelves, and I'd just be like, I can't shop here. You're not serious people. I'm fucking out of here.
Yeah, Craig, we need more. We need to clone you, man.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That'd be problematic.
The people demand cold beer.
Yes. I look at it because I see it be like, if I see like Town, I'll be like, oh, Jeff would be pissed about that. Or if I'd see Collective, like, oh, Maddie's not gonna be happy about it. Like, I'm seeing because I know you guys, so I'm just like, oh, dude, I kind of want to snitch a little bit, like, and just be like, what is happening? Like, that beer is not being treated with the respect that the people who produced it intended it to be. And look, it's fine if it's a lager, I'm not really mad at that, or whatever, stout or something. But if you're going to put an IPA of any description on this warm shelf, I just in the year of our Lord of 2025, I just feel like that's it's a sin. It's
yep. It's like that. Like, that beer is going to be drinking at best like 60 to 70% of kind of its peak flavor.
Big time. Remember we did a pub with Erica for our event, and one of the things we didn't say it on air, but basically I bought, and the brothers were so mad, but basically we just went to the LCBO to get the beers for Blood Brothers because it was just easier. And the can of Shumei, their IPA, their flagship, was 6 months old, and they were all so mad at the end. They were just like, that's so, like, but it was fine. And I think it was because it was held in a fridge the whole time. And I'm I'm what I call a date code princess. I really like my stuff like 2 weeks old type of thing.
Sure.
And I wouldn't have known if I didn't look. And I was like, I think that spoke. I didn't really put two and two together until right now that the reason it was probably okay was that it was probably taken from the truck, put in cold storage from the minute that it touched the store, and that allowed it to be extremely in the best possible condition at 6 months, which it shouldn't have been there at 6 months. But if it was quite palatable. So I thought that's kind of illustrated the point.
It does matter for sure.
Yeah,
keeping it cold does matter.
I got kind of an elliptical question for you, so I'm gonna turn the tables. I'm gonna ask the questioners a question, but okay, look. So I got all these reasons why I think beer is wonderful and magical, and you know, we've like been firefighters running into the burning building that is local manufacturing. You know, like literally craft beer led Ontario manufacturing for growth between 2010 and 2019. That's incredible. There's not a postal code in Ontario where there isn't someone living there who works in beer. 80% of those jobs are little brewers. There's not a community that doesn't have a brewery, or there hasn't been in the recent past.
How fucking cool is that?
How cool is that, right? And beyond that, like these are businesses that overwhelmingly hire because they're inefficient. They need plumbers and they need electricians, and there's this whole halo effect that comes from beer. So I could go on for 2.5, 3 hours telling you why I think beer is good. But the truth is, beer's been in a tough moment. And as people who are as passionate about beer, I'm listening to you talk about how beer needs to be kept cold. And I'm just like, you know, God bless you. Do you see a moment in time where we come out of this? I mean, when I think about the history of beer, it's always been a bit like this. You know, you had this kind of like microbrewery boom in the late 80s, early 90s, and it fell off. And then you had sort of like almost like a .com early 2000s thing happen. And it kind of fell back. A few people held on until kind of 2010. And then this most recent wave that we've been in, third wave beer, whatever you want to call it, we've hit a plateau. And the reason, frankly, there aren't more cold storage shelves for beer is there aren't enough people like you in Ontario, and there haven't been. And I want more of them. And we're dealing with a generation who seems less motivated about beer than maybe the last generation. So is this all transitionary, or are we just moving through what's an inevitable, like nothing is less cool than what your parents thought was cool and your parents thought beer was really cool? Like, what, do we come home someday to a moment when this sun comes out from behind the clouds again? What are your thoughts about this?
God damn, that is a phenomenal question. And I hadn't pictured it from the perspective. I don't know if you got any immediate. I got a bunch of thoughts. I don't know if you're going to go first, Nate, because
no, please go ahead.
What you just said was so sick, and I think that summarizes it, bro. Is that what your parents think are cool is not cool, and if it's I'm like born in 1981, so I'm the beginning of the millennials. So then anybody who's had like kids who maybe of drinking age, well, if you did what you were supposed to do and have kids, like I would have a drinking age kid. And, you know, they're the Gen X or sort of me now that would be drinking. So then if your parents are drinking beer, like, I'm not drinking alcohol. Ew. I think that's definitely it. I'm trying to look, if I look at it from like a real like pragmatist like perspective, everything is cyclical. As you pointed out, one of the funniest ones that I keep arguing. So Tiffany's cousin Dan works for us. He's 27. And we argue all the time in a fun way all the time. We're like, he's like wearing baggy pants now because we were in this. I was a baggy pants 90s kid, hip hop dude. That's how we got down. Yeah. And then it took me so long to get into skinny jeans. And then the skinny jeans came along, and then now it's coming back again. I'm like, bro, we did that. We off that. And he's like, nah, bro, skinny, fucking baggy, man. Like, we just argue all the time about the pants. And then I bought sort of baggy-ish jeans the other day, and then now he's giving me, you should see, they'll come crawling back. I'm like, dog, I've been doing this since like 91. Shut the fuck up. Like, and we're arguing. So I feel like that is one example of cyclical, even in my lifetime. Now this is round 2 of the baggy. Beer in and of itself got too popular. Like you mentioned, I like calling it third wave of beer. And I think that's a really cool way to look at it because it was the early days and then like the 2000s. And then now like this peak that kind of peaked arguably in 2018, 2019, probably. And then there was too many. People got too cocky. People got too excited about it. Everybody had a dream of opening a brewery a lot of the time. It's romantic. It seems like, you know, I just get to work in this thing with these big silver shiny things and make this cool liquid and everyone's happy. And like, I would imagine then that the the Gen Z folks who have decided not to drink, or if they do invest their time in drinking, they're doing other things. Like Dan's girlfriend goes out with her friends and drinks magnesium cocktails, like non-alcoholic things. Like they are like, and wears mum jeans that my mother wore in the 80s. So it's very funny the way that everyone's behaving. And just if I'm really like, you step back without any emotion, everything's cyclical. Climate is cyclical. We've had ice ages. We're maybe in a heat wave. I'm sure it'll go back down eventually. Like, so therefore beer inherently will become not so cool for a little bit, and then hopefully the cream of the crop remain the people who are, and there's enough of all of the three of us to sustain those breweries financially to keep it all going. And then it'll be picked up as some sort of niche subculture again from a different one, not like with the, mustache flannel shirt wearing hipsters with the rolled up beanies and shit. Those dudes of the last era. Maybe there's a whole new era of people, whoever those group of people may identify as, and
welcome our new overlords.
Whoever you are, we're waiting for you.
You know what? I think actually, if I'm looking at my watch, it's sometimes I think to myself, my 4 and 6-year-olds are just really going to be ready for a beer when they're 19.
They're going to be ready because they might be the ones. The Gen Alpha might be the ones. So then, to you, I know. Just a real quick question. Then I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Nate. But do you think that your kids who are growing up in the back of a brewery? I grew up in the back of a toy shop, so I did the opposite way around. I had it cool when I was 8.
Yeah.
And I got invited to all the parties, but then I turned 14, 15. I'm like, this is fucking whack, dude. I don't want to be here. Like, except they had video games and stuff, so that was kind of cool.
All right. That gave you a couple extra years.
Everything else, whatever, right? That now they're flipped. They're right now not impressed at all. But as soon as they understand what this actually means, then they're gonna be like, hey, yo, dad's got the hookup. Like, do you think that they're gonna think it's cool? I know you're crystal balling here, but like, do you foresee them sort of doing the sort of like whatever dad likes isn't cool? Or do you think because they're so young now that maybe by the time they're of drinking age, it'll be back in again and they'll just be the man because they have access?
It's a great question. And I mean, I think you probably got to distinguish between my kids, who might have a particular view of like their dad not being cool, which is and their generation. But I do have hope that like beer has been around for 4,000 years. I don't think it's going away. I think you made a great point about the way that we defined who beer was for was way too narrow for too long. Yeah. And I think you've been champions of that message for a long time, and it's going to take time to sort that out. But we have a team member right now who is in their early 20s, and their relationship to our brewery before getting hired was, my dad brought me here when I was 11. We turned 10 last year. So,
oh my God,
that math works. They literally came, like they remember when we opened, their mom and dad were excited about it. We opened in their neighborhood. They lived nearby, and now they're working here, and sort of
that is encouraging, dude.
So I do think there's reasons for hope, and I think, and then maybe this brings it back to Glorious and Free as well. But I think one of the really endearing strengths of beer is the stuff I talked about earlier, which is like there's not an abundance of industries that are making stuff hyper locally, that have a credible connection to local producers that they can point to. When you're holding this glass and I can tell you the names of the people who grew the stuff that made it. Most of the things we buy show up on our doorstep and they come from nobody and nowhere. And beer's not like that. And I think that's an amazing strength. And I don't think that's trendy. And I don't think that's temporary. And I maybe we haven't played that up enough, but I think that will last. Maybe I'm naive, but I think that will last. And so it's okay. We're a bit like the Blue Jays. If you were cheering for the Blue Jays in 2015, you thought something was cool on a Friday night was to go to the Jays game. If you were cheering for the Blue Jays in 2019, you liked baseball. And I think you guys are baseball lovers. Arguably, you like baseball if you're cheering for the Blue Jays now. But beer is a bit like that, maybe. And we're in a 2019 or a 2025 Blue Jays moment. But I think they'll make the playoffs again someday. And people will remember what makes this industry great. That's my hope.
That's a bar there. I love that, Nate. Go. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Nate, as well, on like where you think. I think that's just such a cool question. Like we haven't really said this like very explicitly ever, so that's why I want to hear what you have to say on this one.
No, it was such a great question, and like a real thinker for sure. And one thing I'll start with is like with my kids. My son is 3 right now, and and my wife is pregnant with our second. I don't. Thank you. I think that's the first time announcing it on the pod. Now that I think of it, but yeah, I don't yet have a sense of of what my son is going to think of it when he starts getting to his teens. I have a feeling he'll probably think it's lame, because I'm probably going to be as passionate about it then as I am now. I know my battery's died, but I'm going to keep talking with it off so that I don't lose my train of thought.
You're good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like we've already seen in the last 10 years that we've been doing the podcast, and that Dominion City's been running, the cycles that the scene has gone through with like you say, the boom of just kind of anyone thought that they could open up a brewery and just be like, oh, this business is booming, I might as well give it a shot now. And those are the ones that are not going to stick around, and there will always be some that will end up doing that, folks that will pop in and out of the business. That happens in any business, obviously, but. And there's of course also going to be times like the past 5 years where the economy can be a real fucking drag, and and even the ones who are passionate and brewing the best product are not going to weather the storm for due to a multitude of reasons, just like in any business. But yeah, I think. Kind of like both of you are saying, that we're going to see we're going to see ebbs and flows with it, but I do think that the craft beer scene is here to stay. I think that in even just because of the broader passion for local product, I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that has grown and is going to be lasting. And I think that passion for beer will last because of that. Anyone who's into beer and is also into local produced products is going to be drawn to it in some form. We'll certainly see booms and busts with it as we do with anything, economic factors and climate change, as that impacts things. We'll see those, but I don't think the passion is going to disappear. It might take different shapes, but I think it's here to stay.
Well said. Yeah, man. Yeah, this is interesting. This is a real fun one. This is a great question, Josh. I really liked it. It's cool to sort of double click into this. It's not almost esoteric. It's not something that we've even really thought about in depth, if I'm honest. We're just so in it, and probably I don't know if you think about this stuff as much. Maybe you do more, because maybe the impact on us is less, whereas it's the livelihood and it's your you know what I mean. Do you think about that question a lot?
All the time. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I think about it all the time.
I mean, enough,
there are things that should die and should go away, and growth that will come from that, and rebirth. The burnt forest feeding the next forest. That's all good stuff. But yeah,
not always a bad thing.
You want to believe that the thing you're spending your time and your effort on still resonates and still hits. I still think a quality product and a meaningful connection with your customers is a pretty damn good place to start if you want to build something to last. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's frankly what a lot of breweries have been doing and continue to do. A couple things give me heart. Bart Watson is the president of the American Brewers Association. He'd been their chief economist before. And for nerds like me, he gives the best speech every year at the big American Brewers Conference. But one of the things he talks about and has talked about for a few years now is there are actually more people who are open to what we're doing than there have been at any other time. There are more people who will say, craft beer is something that I'm open to having, or I have had in the last number of months. Where we're falling down is we're losing people on occasions. So where there are fewer occasions where more people are having a craft beer. So we used to do better with occasions. There were more times in a year that someone would choose an independent beer than they do now, but there are actually more people doing it. And I was trying to think about that for a while, but that's an opportunity for us, is to win more occasions, to find more times where we say to people, this thing you're doing, this occasion, this celebration, this whatever, is a moment for a beer from a local brewery. That's an opportunity. And I don't have the answer yet, but I'm like, I want to work on that. How do we win more of those? From cocktails and from wine and from other things.
Okay. So like, you mean like a birthday or New Year's, like Christmas?
Yeah. An anniversary, a dinner, a cottage weekend. I mean, one of the first early warning signs, frankly, from our like pandemic high is I have this clear memory of a good friend, longtime friend of mine saying, man, I noticed like the summers before the pandemic, the cooler on the dock was always just full of your beer and like people like you. And now it's full of non-alc and canned cocktails. What's up with that? And that was sort of like, I don't know. Is something going on? And the answer is like, definitely something was going on.
RTDs, like I grew up, they were always in Australia. So when we were 15, whatever, we were naughty, like drinking like, the Jim Beam and Coke or whatever, that was in a can, like pre-done. You had the white label 5%, that black label 8%, like Sam Cougar and cola, not Coke, but whatever. Like it was and they had every different type of one. So I grew up with that, and that was just kind of what you did even before, because beer was domestic and gross, to be honest. But those things were popular, and it seemed like, yes, you're right. Like there was some of them here, but then over COVID they kind of exploded. It was like all of the local distillers would just be like, yeah, fuck it, like let's go hard on that, and it just sort of like captured it. And I think at the same time as people got excited at the beginning of COVID, we're drinking double IPAs every day, and then we're like, oh shit, now I'm 30 pounds up, this is not good.
It's too much, arguably. Yeah,
they went a little too hard and kind of off balance. So I just thought it was kind of that, and then it was this kind of more like everyone went too fast, and then the pendulum, it's like same as politics. The pendulum swings one way too far, then it swings all the way the other way, as opposed to in the middle where most logic seems to be. So it's like they went too hard drinking, like, all right, sweet, now we're going to go back, and now we're sober, we're just drinking.
Craig, you nailed it, man. Like there's actually an article that stayed with me. It was years ago, it was in the Atlantic, but it was talking about America, but I think it's equally true of Canada, is that like a drunk, America's history with alcohol has been binge abstain. Right. And that arguably there was obviously no greater moment of abstention than prohibition in the early 20th century. And arguably there was no greater moment of binge than what we have just lived through, which is the last 10, 15 years. You'd say the rise of like wine mom culture, like shop and sip, craft beer, all of these things. And that we were just due for a moment where everyone's like, oh man, we got a hangover, and this is not a moment for the hair of the dog.
Yeah. Oh god, that's so crazy. I want to let's grab the next beer, but I enjoying this conversation. I think this is like such a cool analysis that still all ties into everything that we're talking about.
Craig, do you mind if I go to my fridge?
Yeah, take your time.
Do we need to pause? I'll be like 2 minutes, like 1 minute.
Yeah.
We can keep talking while you're going.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Do it up. Take your time.
Take your time.
What are we feeling?
I don't know. Well, it might depend on what Josh is going to grab.
Yeah, that's true. I like this conversation a lot. I think this is so.
Yeah, this is really making me think.
Yeah, I think this is like those cooler, deeper, intellectual. What's the word? Philosophical conversations, almost like, as far as like, why it's like human behavior. It's almost sociology to a degree, like what people are doing en masse, as opposed to just arriving in the middle and being like, you know what? Well, I can drink at a reasonable time, but I don't have to quit.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to drink 6 beers a day. Like there's like a very happy medium that people can go. And it's Did you?
And it's kind of Yeah, and it's kind of making me think too about like what are my drinking habits going to be like when when my son is 18. It's a case of I think as long as my health allows it, I'll still be passionate about about craft beer. Like as long as I live, I hope.
Same.
So
it's like that Bert Kreischer speech. You know the one? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You guys don't know the Bert Kreischer speech?
No.
Oh, dude, he's on like this pod. You know who Bert Kreischer is? The comedian. You guys don't? Oh my god. Okay.
Sorry, man.
I'm about to send it to you afterwards. Okay. I'll send it to you when we take a bathroom break so that you can watch it. It goes for like 30 seconds, but he's a comedian. And he had this speech on this podcast, and he's like a larger gentleman, not massive, but his whole thing is he does his comedy with his shirt off. He's got a bit of a gut, and I think he's funnier on a pod than he is in his comedy, but he had this thing is I'll drink as long as I can live, as long I'll make myself healthy so I can drink. What's better? When you go to the airport, you're like, let's have a drink. Or you look at each other and the waiter goes at brunch, hey, it's bottomless mimosa. It's like, this can be the best day ever. Or you do that thing and you're not supposed to have a drink. Like, let's go get a beer. And like the way he described it is romanticized drinking in a way that like is unheard of. So I'll send it to you guys so we can you need to see it. It's spectacular. It's so fucking good. Joshua, what are we doing, sir?
I snagged a secret handshake Patiobier made with our good friend Jeff and the team at Town Brewery in Whitby, Ontario.
Look at that. Jeff and Mike killing the game out there. Uncle Jeffrey, the mayor of Port Perry in the building.
The mayor of Ontario, I think.
The mayor of Ontario. I'm going to text him right now. Right, Jeffrey, Josh said it, so it's got to be true.
I think it's true.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, my friend. Now, which is the glass that I got for this one? I think it was this one. What on earth is a patio beer, Uncle Josh?
We made it up.
You made it up.
We made it up. Yeah, we really wanted to have a free hand to do whatever we felt like, and we wanted this beer to be crispy, refreshing, perfect for this time of year. So we just invented a style. And actually, apparently there's some logic to this. I read something recently that one of the takeaways brewers should have is stop spending so much time telling people about like the historic style and tell people more what they should do with it. So we're telling you to drink this on a patio, which we're not doing at the moment, but you can imagine.
But we would like to be. Let's be real.
We would like to be. Yeah.
I don't know about y'all up there, but today wasn't the most loved. Yesterday on here, glorious. Today, not so much.
Yeah.
You know what that's making me think of? I follow a couple of people in Chicago, and I see posts of Off Color Brewing, and all of their stuff is like beer for blank. Like that's what they call their beers. It's like it's like beer for the beach, or beer for after school, or
after school.
Or beer for the patio, or whatever it is, and that's what that made me think of as soon as you said that.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to that idea. It's kind of cool. So
I'm with it, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Get that in you.
Cheers.
Let's pretend we're on a patio. So the nose, if I was going to guess, I know I'm really I'm just a fucking put shit in a box kind of guy just to understand it. It smells like a West Coast Pale Ale at 4.7.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're far off. I think originally it was sort of envisaged as like a hoppy Kolsch, but
okay.
But to be honest with you, I think the nose brings it. So this has got, and I am reading, but this has got Pink from Jackson Hop Farm in Wilder, Idaho, HBC 1019, which was Jeff's pièce de résistance for this collab, was to bring the 1019,
of course,
which is a hop from Yakima, and it's got Amarillo CGX cryogenic lupulin pellets. So it's not shy when it comes to the hop character.
No, not at all. I know that Mike is obsessed with 1019.
Yeah, it's not. It's no slouch, but it's also not aggressive either. Like it's very like there's a lot of flavor to it, but it's quite soft and like mellow to drink, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when you were like, I don't know about you guys. Do you guys like? I feel like I need to place a beer to understand the intentions, like understand the general, like, I think it's also fun, maybe because there's like, I don't know if there's like some OCD or something in there for me, but like I just feel like I need to know what it's supposed to be to understand it, what it's trying to do. Is that, do you guys suffer from that, or is it are you guys a little more like, whatever, bro, let's fucking be like, what do you guys?
No, definitely. I think that's fun, is to overanalyze and think about
it. I can't help it because I do the little reviews and stuff, and I'm always like, I don't know. It's fine. You can still describe a beer without knowing what it is, but yeah, that's always something that it'd be cool to break out of. But so like a hoppy Kolsch, I could also see that too, because it's got like a bitter bite to it, as opposed to typically, like, say you want like a hoppy lager or whatever. Those are a little more, well, typically anyway, like almost like an IPL, like a sort of like it's not like as bitter as this. This is giving me more Westy or American IPA vibes.
Yeah, I think that's solidly where our team tends to like beers like this, as well as, refreshing, but to be refreshing and to be balanced. I think most of our crew who's designing these recipes, they feel like that kind of solid foundation of hop bitterness is essential. And I don't know if it's grown on me over time because they're into it, but I look for it now. And it's almost like a punctuation for a beer like this. It's got that kind of sharp hop presence.
Yeah. And now you said there's 1019. I'm like, yeah, you can get that coconutty
kind of,
thing going on there, coconutty peachy thing.
I'd be remiss too if I didn't mention this, but we used Scarman Labs Pink Boots yeast, which is a cool project people can look into. But and then also there's a Pink Boots malt from Country Malt, and coming off the Space Maker beer, I think it was important to the team that that's not just something we do for March 8th every year, but we find other ways to work that into our discipline throughout the year. And so it actually was kind of fun to plan a beer after March 8th that was going to incorporate some of those ingredients.
Gotcha. I love it.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a Pink Boots hop blend as well, or at least there has been in previous years. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So to bring back around to Glorious and Free, has there been any like feedback or learnings from any of the participating breweries that that you'd like to share? Any kind of like challenges that anyone's brought up?
I mean, one of the eye-opening things for me was just, I mentioned that we had a brewery from Yukon participating. We actually, we'd spoken to a brewery in Nunavut and Northwest Territories as well. Timing wasn't right for them, which is fine. But just when you're that far away, the lead time for planning to get the stuff you need to make a beer, you've got to be so much more deliberate. And I think that was like eye-opening. But just, we were talking about this beer in February, and for them to be brewing it, around now, they really needed to be placing orders and making plans at that time, which is not what we're forced into, being, in the center of the country. So I thought that was kind of cool. But I think for the most part, it's been really positive. I mentioned Oublanc Lupulin and the kind of surprise that you could use Canadian hops to make a beer with a kind of soft, almost tropical quality to it. I think there was a lot of like, oh, I didn't expect that from folks. But no, overwhelmingly, it's been pretty positive. I mean, the thing that got me, the kind of winning moment was the day after we released it, had a bit of media here locally in Ottawa. And there was a guy who showed up. We weren't even open, but people do that. And he showed up and he's like, I haven't had a beer in 25 years, but I got to buy 12 of these. And, I think it's just, it's sort of struck a nerve with people, which has been really cool. And that's, I think, been fairly consistent feedback from the breweries who've been participating, is it just gave people an opportunity to vote with their feet, vote with their wallet.
I like that. It gave people the opportunity to do it. And that was sort of something that you touched on before. Like, one of the things that I feel like I learned from Quebec was the focus. Quebec and Vermont specifically. Vermont was more like farm to table, and Quebec was the focus on and the pride for local. Every gas station has friggin' cheese curds at the counter. Cheese curds in a bag at a gas station, dog. Like, it's so why? What? They're so proud of it. And I just think that was like, it really like I'm very, you know, every time we're buying produce, you're always like, oh, is this local? Are these strawberries from? Like, yeah, sweet, they're from down the road. Okay, cool. Like, it really got me into thinking about that. So coming here to Hamilton, like, we go to our butcher, we feed our dog the organic meat from the butcher. That's what we make his food with, and it takes a long time, but he eats well. And you know, our fish shop, and we know where it all comes from, and it flies in from the East Coast in the morning, and like all of the different places. It's such a it's like a way of life that I feel like can be embedded. Quebec, I think, probably do it the best, and I think it's sort of that the more people visit there, you go and get exposed to it. Like, oh wow, this is sick. And I was just there once again last week. It's been a couple of years, so seeing it again, I'm like, yeah, these guys do it right. They know exactly what's happening with that. I think it's such an important thing to. I don't know, because I guess it's a part of their identity. They have a sort of more of an identity that comes to sort of what you were saying earlier, Josh, as far as like Canada maybe not having that stronger like tie as much. Like, you know, we are a diverse nation, so it's the cultural tie maybe isn't as strong. Whereas Quebec see themselves as Quebecois as opposed to Canadian, and that allows them to more openly dive into that type of stuff because it's more second nature. Whereas we're kind of like what you said, something's from nobody and nowhere. I hadn't thought of it like that. You order something from Amazon, you get it. You're like, you know, what even is this? It's yeah, it's kind of fascinating when you look at it sort of in the perspective of from where that is, and then you're like, okay, well, how can we take that ethos and put that into everything? Not just like, you know, that's what Quebec are doing, buying their local cheeses or meats or whatever. How do we make it into every single thing that we do as Canadians? Ontarians, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting way to explore it too. It's like, you know, I want a world where people cooperate. I want a world where like the things that you're best at on the other side of the planet, we can all benefit from it. I think, frankly, you were born in 1981. I was born in 1984. Like, we grew up in the long summer, man. We're used to having what we want when we want it. I'm used to eating strawberries in January. You know, and I don't know though. There's something interesting to me about the idea that maybe we're moving into a world where you have to wait until June to eat strawberries. Like, I'm not wishing for that, but there is something interesting about
wrong with that, though.
Just getting used to this idea that like this abundance that we felt entitled to for so long. What are we going to do if we don't have it? What are we going to do it as a country, as consumers? But more importantly, you know, like as citizens and human beings. And I think that's really interesting. And how does that wash up as a brewery and a business? This is a fun experiment. Well, we have the luxury of ordering New Zealand Galaxy and ordering Yakima Citra. What if we couldn't? What could we do with what we could do? And I think it's fun sometimes to have you just volunteer for a little constraint. And you say to yourself, I could have everything, but I'm going to use this. What can I do? How great can we make it? And I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And that kind of comes back around to a point that you brought up earlier. And, you know, kind of thinking of climate change and all that, and how kind of that is having an increasing impact, like on a lot of agricultural products. And, you know, you talk about how like it has happened in recent years that we've lost an entire hop harvest, like, you know, due to fires, and those are only happening more frequently. And so, you know, it's not that hard to imagine anymore a world where like, you know, if an entire crop like of a certain hop that is only available in the Pacific Northwest is no longer available. What are we doing with that then? Like, you know, what are we making our beer from at that point? Like, these are not crazy hypothetical questions to be pondering.
No, I think so too. And I don't know about you, but I mean, one of the things I've come to realize over the last little while is, you know, I think I have this really naive idea. You'd leave the city. I grew up in the suburbs, and you'd leave the city and you'd drive through the country, and you had this like bucolic impression of driving past all this green, these farms. And like, what I see now is that's chemical corn, that's chemical soy, that's chemical soy, that's chemical corn. And I actually think it's like really important that as a country and as a province, and we have the ability to grow things that people can eat, that is more diverse, that isn't necessarily entirely dependent on phosphorus from, you know, some other corner of the world. We used to farm differently. And one of the things we used to do is we used to grow a lot of different stuff. Beer has an opportunity to be a catalyst to support people growing stuff that people are going to enjoy locally, to small up the supply chain. And I think there's a whole bunch of reasons, climate change being one of them, but I think there's a whole bunch of reasons to think that might just be wise for us to have that at our disposal. And it won't be if we let it atrophy. And I think talking to Mireille and frankly other people in the industry too, it hasn't been easy for a lot of people who sell stuff to breweries, as breweries have had a rougher go over the last little while. But we're going to want them.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so much to all of this, eh? Like it's such a complex topic as far as like the keeping it local stuff, and then on top of that, you just mentioned, we're dealing with agricultural products that are at the mercy of the environment around us. So there's so many things that are kind of putting, and then all of those things to make the product, and then like, all right, then we're worrying about, like we were just talking about, the audience who we're going to sell it to. That's so right. There's like, it's like the whole chain from creating the ingredients to then making the product and then selling the product is just wrought with challenges the whole way. It's got to be one of the more challenging industries, I imagine, that's going on now. I can't really think of much else. I mean, as far as just the natural factors alone, and then the market forces, not even to mention anything to do with economic forces as far as tariffs or anything else. Say we had everything here that's still climate and market. It's fucking tough, man.
You know, Craig, I'm not saying this for sympathy or anything, but you know, objectively, I sometimes think about this. I'm like, you know, you probably would have done better to buy a parking lot in 2014 instead of opening a brewery. But like, what fun would that have been? And well, you know, and then, like, what is life for? You know, it's
rolling
not
the dice, brother.
We're not here to be consumers only. We're here to be citizens and people. And the cool thing about a business like this is the people. It's the connection to people. It's conversations like tonight. It's making something you be proud of. And that's the one thing we do get in spades as people who make beer. And I think that is still one of the coolest things about this job.
It is super cool. Funnily enough, Nate and I did Troy at Great Lakes, his podcast yesterday.
Oh yeah,
and
great. I look forward to that.
Yeah, it was a super fun. I think it comes out next week. And cool. We did the collab obviously with them for the event. And he asked the question. He was like, "What, Nate? Where am I going with this? I don't know. I just lost it." But it was exactly what you just said. What do you like most about podcasting? And basically both of us said the people, exactly what you just said. Like all of we have such immense respect for people like yourselves who have taken the risk, the financial risk, the emotional risk to put something like this together that you like Tiff and I, we run a business, but it's digital. We can do it from anywhere in the world. Yes, we have employees and but it's very different to having a large facility that has large responsibilities, that shit could go wrong. One little thing goes wrong, and then there could be one little pipe bursts, and then boom, there's a problem. There's a very large problem. So I don't know. I just think you're right. The people who are in beer are in it. I think at this point, and this is actually playing out, I feel like all the different tangents we're going on are tying in, but anyone who's in beer now in 2025 is really in beer because they love it. Like, you're not really there. What's the word? Like, just phoning it in. You're here. You're grinding every day. You could be in something else. You could have bought a laundromat. You could have bought a parking lot. You could have done something else. But like, God damn it, I believe in the people. I believe in this product. I really enjoy this product. And yes, it's a syntax type of thing, but at the same token, it brings communities together if enjoyed responsibly, and breweries are community hubs. And I think at any time like this, anytime like, not even like this, that's not even fair. Just like community hubs are needed, bringing people together, a place for people to gather that's like welcoming, and where you can all bring your kids, bring your dogs. I like that because we have the dog. We bring him everywhere. He's been to more breweries than most people, and I don't like going to breweries that aren't dog friendly if possible, because I like having him then. And like, I don't have kids and I don't really like a screaming baby, but I also like seeing parents with a kid enjoying themselves, having a good time, and deciding to go to a brewery. That's what they wanted to spend their time and take their kid out. I think that's just beautiful. I just think it's such a cool industry that needs to be preserved, and not only just preserved, but amplified. And maybe we're in a bit of a downturn now. And like we were saying, hopefully it's just a short-lived thing, and we can turn that bad boy around over time and just continue to refine and make better decisions and make better. The product keeps iterating and more inclusive as far as like, cool, now non-alc's a bit of a thing. Sweet. All right, make sure we got non-alcohol. Yeah, get the. I mean, maybe it's not that simple, but get the thing where Tiff hasn't been drinking a lot of alcohol. I mean, alcohol, of course, but not a lot of beer. So we go to breweries. She loves getting the wine, and it was kind of rare that she's not able to do that. So most breweries are able to at least offer something else, you know, to if a bunch of us will want to go out, and you know, only some of us are beer drinkers. You're like, well, you know, I really want to go to Dominion City, but you know, they also have this, and this for you guys. And I'm like, all right, sweet, let's go. So just sort of making the establishments as, and I guess that comes down, that's kind of bureaucracy and red tape to a degree as well, and allowing breweries to be these places and to offer what they need to encourage people to come by and not have to like turn anybody away. It's
think about that all the time is like overcoming objection. Yeah. How do you make sure that your place is a place where like the one person who doesn't want what you do, how is it still a great place for them? And I think that's important to be. I will say too, just picking up on what you were saying there, you know, I think these roughly 40 breweries that are doing this project, one of the things I find really inspiring is it's not an easy moment for any one of them. You know, they've had better years than this year will be. Sure. And every one of them has chosen to do something that's bigger than them, which I just think is cool and somewhat unique to beer. I don't know that you find that in every industry. The other thing I want to mention too is like there are like 3 breweries in Ottawa who signed up to make this beer. This was like our original idea. It's way bigger than us now, but how cool is that? That like our peers in our own city saw enough merit in this idea that they're like, yeah, we want to do that too. And you know, it has every opportunity to be like, well, I don't know, it's their idea. I don't want to do that. People in this industry are just genuine. Overwhelmingly genuine is what I've learned, and I think it's cool, and I think that gives me a lot of hope for the future. Is that like I think people pick up on that. I think they realize when you're about something bigger than just your own self-interest, and a project like this gives people an opportunity to demonstrate that.
Yeah, it does. And as you're talking, I've just pulled up the list of the different breweries. I don't know if we want to shout any of them out. Like I don't know if it's like too boring to read the list out, but
no.
I mean, look, you got like Port Rexton in Newfoundland, which is pretty sick. You got you got Dildo Brewing. I fucking love
and they sell a lot of merch in Dildo, Newfoundland. Yeah. That's a real place.
Yeah,
they sell a lot
of course they do. Of course they do.
Have you heard of it, Nate?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It always comes up on like random things. Sorry, I just saw that right now. That is fucking amazing. People don't know Dildo Newfoundland is it's so funny with him.
It's a beautiful place, Greg. You should go.
Dude, if there's anywhere I want to go, it's straight to Dildo, Josh. And I'm like, hey, Tiff, we're going to Dildo. I'm sorry. Shouts to y'all, man. We gotta be on the pod just so I can say the name.
You should.
Fucking amazing. We're just talking with For Origins because we have a collab with them, and they were like, we had to keep because this month is absolutely bonkers for us. We had to keep pushing the pod, and they were like, oh, you know what, that works out pretty cool because we're gonna have the Glorious and Free for when we do the pod, which was something that they were super excited about that, which is great.
And they're your mates Brew and Sunsplit for Quebec.
That's right. Yeah, no, we've been working with those guys for a while. They do make Sunsplit for Quebec, which I think is pretty cool, and they're a great brewery, good people. Yeah. And honestly, it's worth saying, you know, having breweries in Alberta and Quebec who are willing to buy into this project right now made me feel good.
Yeah. Why those two specifically?
I mean, for people who are reading the news, you know, there's a not insignificant portion of the population who's not sure about Canada.
In both of those places.
In both of those places. And I think having breweries that get it and find a way, I think it's really cool that For Origins release is going to be called Florent Glorieux, which is, you know, like from the French version of Canada. Yeah, I think that's cool. That felt important early on.
Oh, that is cool. Like
I was honored when the team there agreed to do it.
Yeah, there's something meaningful in that for sure.
Damn, I didn't even consider that. That's extra cool. I love that.
And you've got Lone Oak out on PEI.
Yep.
Like Trailway, the Goats of New Brunswick.
Yes, love Trailway.
Yeah, and you know what's cool is that I think Port Rexton, maybe Dildo as well, and the Trailway folks have all got that listed That is a beer that not only are they releasing at their breweries, but is also going to be listed and available like province wide.
Nice.
I think that's
So they're doing
nice.
distro.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's dope. You got a High Key in Saskatchewan and
Yep.
District in Saskatchewan. I'm not familiar with either. This is great. I'm learning here too.
Kilter in Manitoba, who are
Kilter
awesome.
in Manitoba, doing great things.
Twin Sails out in BC, love them. They're amazing. They do some.
And I don't know, and I don't know this brewery, but just a great name of a brewery, especially in Yukon, is Winterlong. That's a great name for a brewery.
Yeah, you know what? I've only come to know them through this project, but
Winterlong.
every conversation I've had with the team there, they seem so genuine and amazing, and it's on my list to get there. I'd love to go check out their tap room.
Oh wow, their logo looks dope. Hell yeah!
Yeah, it looks like a magical place.
Yeah, it looks that looks amazing. That's so cool. I mean, we got what else we have here? We got so we got the Winterlong there. We got,
I got to shout out London, Ontario. Really brought it.
Yeah, shout out.
Fort River and Anderson both participated, and they collaborated, worked together, and there's been a ton of media coverage of it in London. I don't know why it really hit in London, which was cool to see. So it was neat to have them on board. Yeah.
And you got the Pass and Trouble Monk in Alberta.
Yes.
Which is super dope. Once again, glorious and free.beer. If anyone wants to check all this out, all the information is there. Tin House, BC. PI Brewing as well. High Key as well in Saskatchewan. Did I say that before? Maybe not. And kind of like a real bulk of these, which is really cool, man, like that are in Ontario. As far as like, while the other ones are super cool as well, it's like really nice to have support from the home crowd as well. As far as, we got you got Town, obviously,
Blood Brothers,
Black Bellows,
and you mentioned like three Ottawa ones. You've got Beyond the Pale, Spark, Bicycle.
Hell yeah! You got a few that I haven't heard of, like Square Brew, Kick and Push, Lost Villages, very cool. Indie,
great.
Together. Oh, TWB, yep.
Halo,
in Guelph. No, Guelph. They're in where are they?
TWB, they're in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Kitchener, that's what it was. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Overtime in BC as well. You got Halo in Toronto there. Our Brew, who we're going to have on the pod soon. Spark Beer. That name sounds familiar.
Next time you're in Ottawa, we're going for a beer and a pizza at Spark. But John and the team there are doing really great things. They're such a nice community hub.
Hell yeah.
They're great. They're great.
Of course, like you said, we got Muse that you mentioned earlier. Flux, big fans of them. We had them on the pod there. They actually were one of the biggest surprises as far as like the stuff that they do. That was
hidden
so fantastic.
gem for sure.
Absolutely. Sawdust, shouts to Sam and the team out there. Absolute legends. Bridge Masters out here in Ontario, Black Lab in Toronto, R&B in BC, Heron Bay in New Brunswick. Dude, that's a pretty stacked list. And this is and so if there's any breweries listening or watching, they want, I mean, look, depending on when they see this, we're recording this on May 8th. Once again, I know you were saying you were hoping to get people involved by the end of May.
Yeah, I think we've broadened the lens now at this point. I think that, that was sort of wave one, but I definitely would love to see this as something that lives on. Some people have told us they're going to brew multiple batches. I think that's great.
I think that's the move, to be honest, because I think that's what Black is Beautiful did. Initially, it was like trying to get people on board and get the original wave of excitement. Then like brewers like Sankey and Baron did it like 3 times, and that's why we started Link Up.
Yeah.
So I feel like something like this is, regardless of like where that, we talked about the nationalism, patriotism that might have been initially inspired by what's happening down south in the last few months. Hopefully, there's a more what's the word, like a version of that patriotism that sort of sticks around, that isn't rooted in sort of a deference to somebody else. It's just like, hey man, we're just proud of Canada, and we're proud of our ingredients. We're proud of our brewery. And look, I'm gonna be honest, I spend a lot of time in the States these days, not so much right now, but prior to all of this, and we get, I think, the best. I think between Ontario and Quebec, my personal opinion is the best in the world. Like, I'm just like, I love going out and exploring, but goddamn, we got some incredible stuff here, and I really think we do, and we should be proud as fuck of it. And if there's ways to leverage more local producers, like this is sort of maybe making people look around and be like, oh, I don't need to get that from there. I can just go right here and get it. I think that's a really genuinely beautiful thing that should continue on beyond sort of that initial like wave of, regardless of what happens with any of this stuff. It's so I think that's the move.
Yeah,
So
no, I think you're right.
So if a brewery sees this in December 2025 and they're like, "Hey, I want to do it," it'd be great if they could,
Get on, let's do it.
And I know this is not wrapping it up at all, but just since we're talking about if a brewery does want to do it, the best is there. All the information's on this website, right? There's are you a brewery who wants to join the campaign? You hit let us know, and you fill out the form.
There's like a really short form, and then I make sure we get you everything you need. But we'll provide you with a recipe. We got a list of suppliers. You can have our label. We'll make the design file available for you. All you need to do is put your logo on it. So yeah, no, we've tried to make it as easy as possible.
It seems very straightforward, and it's a very I would just like shout out to whoever made the website, because I feel like it's just so clean, and the way that even just the way all the links work. I don't know why. It's just
you know what? I'm gonna do it. Our design agency for the brewery, for almost our whole history, our City Seltzer brand, and this project is a little boutique agency here in Ottawa called Northern Army, but they're the best.
Love it.
Any brewery listening that wants great design, talk to the team in Northern Army.
It's genuinely, I think it's beautiful. Yeah, look at like the can, look at that little beaver right there. Like fuck, Canadian as fuck, dude.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love it.
Original inspiration was there's a World War II era poster of there's all kinds of great Canadian propaganda in the Second World War, but there was a beaver alongside a British lion wearing a Canadian helmet and brandishing a bayonet. And we thought the bayonet was maybe a little intense, so we replaced it with boxing gloves. But that beaver was inspired by something that connects back to history, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. I'm not surprised at all based on the way you guys rock this. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the boxing glove fits right now.
Yeah. I think the boxing glove is great because it's, the beaver's fine. Reminds me of, because in Australia we have the boxing kangaroo, which is like a thing. There's actually a flag that, which is pretty ridiculous. But so this makes me feel, all right. Well, my other home has a boxing beaver. So everybody be boxing. Everyone's angry. Jesus Christ. Everyone, these animals calm down. So I'm looking at the time. Do you guys want to take a quick bathroom break and we can get cruising? I know we've got still 3 more beers to go, so I know we've been yapping so much that we haven't really pounded through these as fast as we could. Take a quick break, and then I'm going to send you Bert Kreischer's speech so that you can see it. I already pulled it up just now because I need you to see it. And we'll be back in a sec, guys. And we are back.
Yeah, we're back.
So, folks, we are doing a glorious beer, known commodity pale ale up next, with a nice little cobra chicken on the side, if that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely is.
Those fucking things, man. They're at we got this really cool park here called Bayfront Park, and we love walking the dog around there. But he keeps eating the geese poo. I don't know if
no. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Don't do that.
Well, it's like he eats rabbit poo in the backyard too. Like it's fine, I guess. Like, but he sometimes pukes it up, sometimes he doesn't. And we get him checked. If he does anything crazy, we'd always take the stuff to the vet. But why do dogs want to eat the geese poo? It doesn't even look that yummy.
Yeah, man. There's too much bird flu going around for that. Don't do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him. He doesn't really listen. Little guy, little shit. All right, tell us about this one. So originally, we just found out off air that it used to be an IPA at 6%. Now it's a pale ale at 5%.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, originally this beer was all Citra, and it was an IPA. But the whole concept has kind of remained the same, which is like, how do you take things that are familiar? In this case, we use Citra and Mosaic hops, and just shine a big light on, what is essentially a known commodity. This is a pretty common duo in craft beer. But I think sometimes there's value in the classic. There's a reason it became classic, because it's great, and that's kind of why we loved it and why we wanted to shine a light on it. So, yeah,
for it. I love it. Now, this one, when did the IPA come out, and when did it stop?
We started making known commodity IPA. I want to say that probably going all the way back to 2020, 2021, something like that. Okay. And it was sort of an experiment at the beginning. It was around the time we started doing hop selection and bringing in our own lot of Citra. And we wanted to shine a light and say, this is the Citra we selected. This is what it tastes like. This has been an LCBO seasonal for the spring. Okay. So it's it'll be on the way out soon as Glorious and Free and our corn lager come on. But Yes, one I always look forward to. It's usually around at least once or twice a year.
Okay. And why did you change it to the pale ale, real quick?
You know, I think the team had a theory that remains to be borne out about whether having something at that lower ABV might be right for the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, but I think it works. I mean, you can tell me if you think it works, but I don't mind. I don't hate it. That sort of sessionable 5%.
I think it's one of my favorite beers of yours of all time, if not the, would be Paper Salesman. I think that's what is that 5?
5.5 usually.
5.5. Same
Yeah.
thing. Gentlemen, get that in you.
Cheers, guys.
Nice little dank citrus nose. She works. I like a good pale ale. I feel like pale ales are don't really get that. They're in this sort of interesting thing lately. I almost feel like at the ABV, you're either like, if you're into pale ales, you're into pale ales. Because this is also, I guess, feedback from other breweries who sort of say their pale ales don't move as much as maybe they used to. Because if you're going to go 5%, maybe someone will want a lager. And if you want an IPA or something like a hoppy beer, then you go like the 6, 5, 7%, whatever from there.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, I've heard the same theory, and that's why I sort of say, I'm like, I don't know if we know for sure that it's been borne out, but I think there's something there. At a hoppy beer, you can have 2 of.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
I'm not mad at them at all. I kind of like them. I like spreading the hoppy beers out over like multiple ones. It's kind of, I'm more of a sessionable guy rather than anything too crazy. So it's kind of cool to have like, you know, a couple different crispies, like, you know, lighter crispy, maybe like a Vienna or a dark lager or something, which is perfect because we got something coming. And then you can kind of go into a pale ale and then like maybe an IPA, like a Westie, and then, you know, kind of like go through the process. I think it's like fun and kind of you just like slowly ramp up as opposed to, or you don't, and you can just sit on something like this all night, which packs just enough flavor to keep you going without being too heavy and too filling. But
Absolutely.
Great.
You know, one thing we've noticed, and I it might just be us, but in the U.S., I've heard for years that double IPAs, things in the higher end of the ABV spectrum, have worked well. And you know, when we've done double IPAs, with very few exceptions, there's one we make around Halloween every year called Monster Bash that works.
Oh
But
yeah, I love that.
other than that, they haven't been super successful for us. And I don't know if that's an us thing or an Ontario thing. I'd be interested to know. You don't see tons of dippas anymore from other breweries either, so I suspect maybe we're not the only ones, but it's like that thing in the high end of the ABV works in the US, and it doesn't necessarily seem to translate here. Nathan, do you see that too, or?
Yeah, I as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking through a few of them, and I feel like that. Yeah, there are not as many in Ontario, save for a few select breweries.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm even thinking over over on the Quebec side as well, if I think of places,
I think it works in Quebec even differently than it works in Ontario. Like
completely differently. Like if I think of like Messorem or whatnot, they will rock they'll rock the double IPAs like crazy. Third Moon, they do more double IPAs than most. Although I feel like the single 6.5s are probably still their bread and butter, despite the fact that they still will pump out like the quadruple and the quintuples, like going up to like 12 and 13.5%. Those guys are crazy. But yeah, in by and large in Ontario, I think you're right that like a 6.5% IPA is more common. It is more common than the doubles. I would say there's probably more of an even split from a couple of select breweries like Badlands and Third Moon. But other than that, yeah, I would say you're right. It's an interesting observation, and there's definitely variation by region for sure.
Yeah, the double IPAs seem to be. It's almost like the certain types of brewery, the breweries that sort of like hang their hat on like hazy IPAs would be leaning into them regardless of kind of where. I found in the States there's more variety in the ABVs, whereas here there's a little more like kind of what Nate was saying. Usually like, you know, single IPAs are typically like 6.5, and then double IPAs are like either 8 on the dot, 8.2. Whereas like, you're going to get 7.3, like all sorts of 8.7, like all these sort of random things in the States a lot more. So I feel like for some reason they've gone with a little more cohesiveness. Not sure why that is. But it's I think it would depend on the brewery. But if you look at sort of the brewing culture as a scene, I think it's definitely trending more on the lower ABV for sure. It's just if you want double IPAs, you go to certain places for that type of thing. Yeah, it's weird. I guess that comes kind of what you were saying earlier, as far as what we were all saying about maybe the younger crowd maybe not drinking as much, or some people moving across to seltzers or RTDs or non-alcohol altogether. So it's sort of like the low ABVs become quite the thing. I remember in Quebec I've said this before, but we did a pod with a beer store called Bierolog, and we did 4 beers. This was like 2018, 4 beers under 5%, like one non-alc, I think, one like 1 or 2%, and then like I was like, what is this? Why are we drinking this? This is ridiculous. It just seems so stupid. And I'm like, oh, like now everybody's like catching up. Like these guys were really, on top of it in so much longer ago, and they were so much more popular there for some reason. So it's definitely trending on the lower side. Maybe there's some breweries who are just like killing it with doubles, but a lot of people are doing the lowers. Do you guys do many doubles at all? Double IPAs or anything large?
We don't do a ton. Yeah, like I said, maybe 1, maybe 2 a year. And it's the same thing for us. Yeah. To be honest with you, we were really keen on sort of high ABV stouts, and we have one that works. We do
Between Two Evils.
Yeah, and that one works for us, and we do that pretty much once a year. But the other ones, the non-barrel aged ones that we mucked with, they just didn't. We liked them, but they didn't have traction. And you see other breweries have a lot of success with that. But again, a lot of them are on the other side of the Ottawa River. Like Messerem, and definitely the Brasserie du Bac Canada guys are great at that and have a following for it. So and frankly, when we did have them, it felt like a lot of the customers for those beers drove from Quebec for them.
Go figure.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just sort of interesting to see what works, even at a kind of like a micro level, because it does seem to vary from region to region.
Definitely. And that's such an interesting thing, is like where the consumers are. Like even some of the stuff here, when people do barley wine, I have my mates in Quebec hit me up to buy the barley wine here because they're not doing enough. Not enough breweries do it. So when they do it well, people are like really after
and they are fucking intense on them.
They go hard. I just dropped off about $500 worth of barley wine in Quebec last week that I got from Counterpart for a friend. It's maybe even more actually, because it was not all of it was actually all of it was secondary. It was in a bottle shops, and the rest.
So there's a markup on that.
So there's a markup, and it's not cheap. The stuff is not cheap at all. Actually, more than $500 if I really add it all up. Yeah, it's pretty bonkers what people.
Because you're definitely looking at 20 to 25 a bottle there for sure.
No, 45.
Whoa,
45.
Holy shit!
Guys, Quebec is the keeper of the flame when it comes to this. Because a few years ago, this wasn't wild. God. You would hear about people spending this kind of money and in like an aftermarket for beers. As you know, like that doesn't exist now in English Canada. That doesn't exist.
No, not really.
No,
it's not 2012 no more. Yeah, unfortunately,
but maybe it will be again. Who knows?
I hope so. God damn it! Like, no, it's kind of better because now there's not like that, like scrambling for it, or that like I never. The only people, my friend in Montreal, who I wouldn't call it trading, but I get stuff for him. Absolutely, I'll buy it and he'll pay me back every time. I do that with Nate. We do that all the time. I did it today. So like, I don't call it trading. It's just securing stuff for each other. That's great. I would not go and some random dude on a forum and be like, hey, FT, ISO, whatever. Like, I would never do that, because then they start being, no, that's worth more. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I paid $10 for this. It's worth $10. What are you going to do? Like people start to go into that. I'm just like, I don't want that life. It's not that serious. We have so much good beer that like, is it really worth, my battery died. Is it really worth, the I don't know, the fussing over this stuff? When this I don't know, is it? I think because maybe now, probably one argument there is that we have so much good stuff that you don't really need to scramble to get some things, because I feel like the FOMO has the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, right? If there's anything that happens, we're just like, hey, it'd be cool if we can get that, but no one's like, oh man, I need that. Like, we're not like fucking losing our minds over stuff anymore. And it doesn't mean that the beer isn't good. It just means like there's so much good beer that it's like, I mean, it'd be cool if we could get it. If we can't, well, let's try. And it's not the end of the world. And that's back in the day. It wasn't quite like that. I think it was more like, if you do not get this released, then maybe we're gonna die type shit.
You know, I haven't talked about this a lot with peers at other breweries, but my sense is that like the last couple of years has seen like a rise in core brands. You know, like I think there has been this. I don't think it's necessarily a retreat. I just think it's, you know, they want to know what they're getting, and getting the new thing every time with some new hop combo or something is less important than getting a thing that you know is going to be great. And so, I don't know. I think of brands like Jutsu and the strength in a brand like that, and part of it is like I know exactly what it's going to taste like every time I have it. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people are looking for that more and more. That might actually be a healthy sign, frankly, than just like blindly lining up in the rain for a new beer that no one's ever tried.
That's a great point.
I think you're right. And when you even see like very like typically hype places like Third Moon even leaning into the core brand thing, like with what they've done with Bone Tree and Rise,
and
like,
even Kills a
like
bit.
those two, like those two kind of being their like their real core brands, and that they're like, and they're in a tough spot because they've got a customer base that really wants the new thing. So if even they can make a go with having a core brand that people can come back to reliably, I think that's a sign that like things are definitely I don't think it's ever going to go fully in that direction, particularly for places like Third Moon and whatnot. But if even they are doing a semi-core brand, if there's a sign it's moving in that direction for sure.
Yeah. I feel like you're 100% that we've seen that, like a lot of, guests on the pod have talked about that as well. And I feel like there's the swing back with, once again, we've been talking about that pendulum a bunch, the COVID where they were risking all the money because they're bored and now they got nowhere to go. So like, fuck it, I'm just going to drop mad money on beer. And then once that maybe either didn't work out or they went too hard on double IPAs and they put on some weight, like, oh damn. Like, and if you're going to do it, if you're going to spend money on beer, you kind of want to know that it's going to be good. So therefore the swing back to flagships and to core brands that are like, yeah, man, I would much rather, the fact that 12 packs, let's say Willowbow dropping the 12 pack of their Hellas Lager, like, why would people want that in a brewery, from a brewery like that, if people weren't after a consistency? I imagine you've probably seen a similar thing. You've got the cores like Two Flags, which is phenomenal, and the
Town and Country,
which is like has no business being that good as a blonde ale, which is it's so fantastic. I had it like years later. I couldn't believe it. This is crazy, because a blonde ale on paper doesn't sound that good, and you try that, like, man, this is fantastic. So like people can come to Dominion City and be like, I'm gonna grab those two. And Old Paper Salesman, which is forever gonna probably be my favorite beer from you guys. That, like, it's just exceptional. It's just like and people want to know they're gonna get something that's reliable, that's gonna hit that spot. It's gonna sort of scratch the itch that they're looking for. Like, I get it, and I think they're balanced. Some people maybe have gone full in that direction. Fully is in like, I don't even want to try anything new anymore. I'm off that. I'm just getting my brands that I like, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever, or they, maybe they'll just dabble a little bit. Like, oh, they're dropping this, like, known commodity. This looks kind of fun. I've seen this before. Let me try one of those, but I'll go and get a 6 of the other. And I don't know. Have you found that from your sales sheets and stuff? Like, is that a trend that's happening?
Yeah. I mean, we think about it. We have a handful of brands that are kind of always available to a bar or a restaurant, to the LCBO. And then we have sort of a sub tier that are, we'll make them every year. And there's sort of a consistent can design. Known Commodity is one of them. River Hymnal is sort of our West Coast IPA that we do like that. Shape of Home is our locally sourced pale ale that we do. And we have Time and Tide, which is like a hoppy lager. Those will all happen in a year usually. And then there's things that, maybe happen once every year or two. And then there's just a handful of things that we're just riffing on. Sometimes they're familiar concepts, hoppy hazy beers, bright clear hoppy beers, British beers, whatever. And the name changes every time because, there's a bit of an innovative quality to it. And there's a customer for that too. But I think one of the things we've noticed, a brand like Sunsplit, it's roughly 60%, 70% of what we'll make this year.
No way. Really? Oh, Josh, you've I don't know if you touched the computer, but you've gone like the microphone's a little.
Any better?
There we go. Perfect.
Now
perfect.
you're good. Now
That's
you're
perfect. It
Sorry,
sounded
guys.
like a bass drum.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I quite liked it. It was
There's another
symphonic.
element to the interview. Yes.
Yeah.
Our double dry hop series, we'll bring this out 2 or 3 times a year. We'll do a double dry hop version of Sunsplit, and we'll introduce a hop that's
different
not
hop,
normally part of the recipe. Those work really well. So you
Yeah.
take
I
a
love
brand
those.
that's familiar, that people like, and then you introduce a novel element.
Yep.
That seems to be the right combo.
Peacherine was the banger.
Mm.
There you go.
That was the one people like were because Nate and I are aggressive cheerleaders.
Peacherine
for
fiends.
Peacherine. It's
a
the
good
greatest
hop.
hop of all time. I would argue it's the greatest hop of all time, but that's neither here nor there. But I was very excited because I know Durand out here had it, and I was like, yes. And then Nate was like, "Do you want the Peacherine?" I'm like, "Yes." Even before I saw it, I was like, "Just get me the Peacherine." It was
All right.
it was
Maybe we got to make that again. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe double up on the peach, maybe triple dry hop Peacherine.
There you go. Hey,
There you-
making my business for 2026.
There you go.
Frank.
Let's fucking go. I mean, I feel like we could do it 2025. I don't know. I feel like it's only
There's
May,
still
but
time. There's still time.
There's plenty of time. That's like an August skew right there. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Okay, I like that a lot that you've like taken that. I didn't realize Sunsplit was that massive for you guys. That's really cool. That was also one of the early haze in the in the Ontario scene as well. When did,
You know what?
I guess,
It's possible I said this the last time we spoke 4 years ago, but that beer is a consequence of our team going to Vermont for our first year anniversary in 2015. Scott, who had joined the brewery as a volunteer, now our operations guy, head brewer, just like being a dog with a bone for a year, just trying to figure out. He's like, we had Mastermind IPA at Fiddlehead,
yeah.
and it was like, what the hell just happened? I felt like I was drinking a tank end. Like, did I just drink pure true, but there was no bitterness? Like, what the hell was that? And really, it's a testament to him. And to be honest, the first time we released that beer, we released it as a beer called Otis, and it was a little rough. I'm not sure the brand would have worked, but it was sort of an evolving concept for about 12 months. And yeah, that's a beer that's now 60-70% of our volume in a year. So
Good Lord.
I think about 10 years from now, it won't be true that beer is 60-70% of our volume. It's almost certain in my mind.
What do you
So
think?
I would agree with that.
You sort of wonder to yourself, like, what will it be, right? And how do we make sure that we're good at making whatever it is people are going to want to drink 10 years from now?
Right.
Because we want to be around at that
You
time.
think about that?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
No one's ever said that.
I do. I want to make sure that we're still relevant. And, again, in 10 years, there are people who are young now who are going to be coming into drinking. What are they going to want? How do we make sure that we've got something that speaks to them?
How do you?
I think keeping your options open, for better or for worse, has been one of the things we've tried to do. I know my own personal consumption now looks a lot like lower ABV beer, lager, in a way that wasn't even five years ago. I don't know if that's indicative of where other people have gone, but that's what I reach for first. That's probably the most of what I want to drink.
Okay.
And I think we make something for that now, not just for me, but I think that we've both brought along and we've tried to serve a customer base for that. We didn't make a lot of English ale for a long time, and we'll have a second release coming in a little while. But we made a bitter last fall that I loved, that actually did really well. We're going to make kind of an Orwellian-inspired pub ale that's coming out in the next little while that I'm really excited about.
Dope. That's dope.
George Orwell wrote it's very short, but the quintessential love letter to the British pub.
What's it called?
It's called Moon Underwater. Our beer will be called Moon Underwater. But for anybody who loves language, you should read this essay. It is
Interesting.
a love letter to the Great British Pub. So anyway, I can't wait for that beer. That's not something that would have had me super excited in 2015, but it does get me very excited in 2025. So I don't know. I think it's cool. Someone who was it? Burdock? Someone just released a dark Maya that I can't wait to drink it. That's again not a beer style that was people were kicking doors down for at the height of craft beer, but I think it's great. There's a place
Josh,
for beer.
if you're touching your cord, you gotta move your hand again.
Yeah, it's doing the thing. I don't know if it's like the connection or if it's like you on the.
Is this any better?
There you go.
Yep,
perfect.
that's much better.
Sorry, guys.
No, don't apologize. The dark mild we just dropped on with Flora Hall. I don't know if you're talking about that one.
Yeah,
I did. Yes, that's right. I did see it was Rod who was holding one. Yeah,
he was.
That's right.
That's right. Rod there.
Yeah,
that's
like
the
amazing.
British stuff. What
amazing.
was the English? You did an English bitter. There's a couple of beers that I just to give you guys the flowers. There was an English bitter a couple of years ago. When I say a couple, it could have been 4 to 5 years ago, or even more.
Probably even longer if you're thinking of the one I think you're thinking of.
What was the one?
You're thinking of the one that's like an English bitter, but was also like a cocktail inspired thing.
We had a beer that we came out with in the early days called Earnscliffe. And it was we
that was a
called
brown
it
ale,
ESB, but it was basically a brown ale.
No, there's another one. There's another one that was fucking like this was when I've had Earnscliffe. That wasn't it. There was a beer that you had.
You had one that was a collab with Jabberwocky. Is the one that I'm thinking
Second
of.
Breakfast.
Yeah. Yes,
sorry,
that's
that
the
one. Second Breakfast.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
dude. Okay, that beer and Melody Noir. Fucking Christ, those two were.
Craig. I'm impressed that you remember those beers. Yeah.
Oh, I never forget. I had Melody Noir the first time when we came to see Ren talk at I think it was whatever it was, April 2018 or 19.
Yep.
We all went out to Flora Hall afterwards, and we all got in the van, and it was just like, dude, I love that beer so much.
What a night! Yeah.
Oh, that was such a fun night, and I don't know if I had the Second Breakfast that time, that same thing, but I couldn't believe it. It was the best black IPA I've ever had. It was just so spectacular, and I feel like that what you guys did at the time, I was still peak haze boy. Like that's all I gave a shit about. And I feel like it was like, oh, you just made this black IPA that just captured everything. It was like the body of a New England IPA with this like darkness that it added all those roasty characteristics and everything. It was just balanced perfectly. And the English, the Second Breakfast, like that was an ESB, right? Is that
I think we called it
we
called it an English bitter, but it was something like that. It was very much calling on English
special bitter.
There we go.
And it was 30th of May 2019. I had it. So good friends Untapped here telling me what's up. Good Lord, it was just really cool. And I just really credit you guys for like, you guys because your brand is so cool and all your beers are so dope, that it just made me want to try the other stuff, because I believed in the brand so much, and I still do, obviously, that I was just like, all right, let me try some of this other stuff that's very much out of my wheelhouse. And it was like, I feel like almost that was for me, the moment where I became more open to British styles. And now I love it. Like we've got a handful of British beers for our anniversary, because cool. Nate and I both really love it. And I would probably credit that beer personally for getting me interested in it a lot more, and just being like, I'm pretty keen if a brewery I love drops like an ESB or a mild or something along those lines, I'm like, let me get in there. Like that's exciting to me now. So it's I love that you guys always did that though, and I feel like because you guys were like the brand that in once again 2017 you were doing haze in a way that a lot of people weren't. There was Jutsu and there was a few other ones, a Juice and it Sawdust and things like that, but not a ton of other stuff. So to me, I was like, you guys were ahead of the game, and it was so good. And then if you were going to put your name to a beer like that, I was like, all right, well, haze is sick. This has got to be great if they're putting it out. So I feel like that's like an important part of like maybe spreading, if people like you for one thing, and then they'll trust the brand for something else, and that can help continue to get people interested in other styles of beer if you've got them on one thing, and then hopefully grow within beer in general, and to keep coming back to you guys, and also to continue to explore and spend money in Ontario businesses and Canadian businesses as a whole.
I remember years ago we had an amazing Muskoka rep who sold beer to bars and restaurants for Muskoka. A guy named Scott who was here for years in Ottawa. Anyway, I learned so much about how to sell beer to bars and restaurants from Scott. Great dude. Anyway, I remember him telling me though early, like maybe 2015, 2016, they had invested so much in Mad Tom and had been such a huge part of their business, this IPA that they had at the time. And I loved that beer and it did super well for them. But I remember him telling me that all of a sudden, like craft lager, which they had been making since time immemorial, I think it was a recipe that went back to like Muskoka cottage brewing days, like before they even rebranded. There was like 1 year where they made no effort. And all of a sudden they just saw the sales creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. And I just thought that was so cool. It was like you kept this thing that like didn't necessarily move the needle for you, but you kept it because you knew you had an audience for it and you knew it was good. It is still very good. And it became something for you. And actually, I think that, over a period of time, I think Mad Tom did kind of recede for them and other things filled the space. I mean, they moved into Detour and did a bunch of other things. I think they're a great business. But I just thought that was really cool. And I think that seed got planted in my brain. It was like, don't bet the farm on one thing. Tastes change. And we only got to the thing that works now because we held it lightly and we gave someone with talent on our team an opportunity to mess around. So I always want to do that. I think this wheat beer that you guys were drinking earlier is an example of that. That's Jacinda on our team who came up with that recipe. I think it's great. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, everybody wants to drink wheat beer. Who knows? I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I want to be ready if that's what people want,
That's smart, man. That's smart.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
On that note, I know it hasn't been that long since we cracked the last beer, but in the interest of time and getting through these last two, we probably move on to the next one.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Do it.
IPA time?
North of Summer, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's what I was thinking. And then we can wrap it up on the old...
Yeah, we've got a darken to finish on.
Oh, I had this open, please. So this little gentleman right here.
Yeah.
There we go. Look at that. Sick can art. Oh, it's with Prince Eddie's.
Maybe Prince Eddie's, yeah.
Shouts to Max.
Shouts to Max.
This is Idaho 7, Simcoe, Nectaron, Columbus Cryo. Actually, this is the beer I've been taking home more than anything else lately.
Interesting.
I've had this one a couple times already, and it's a fucking banger.
Hell yeah. I've been looking forward to this one. I didn't realize it was a collab. That's super cool. Oh, gosh. When did this one drop?
This is you probably have the date there. I have it here.
Oh yeah. No,
I don't, oddly enough, but
see a date code. No.
All right. Well, maybe our printer was messed up that day, but it's probably about a month. It's probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, so she's pretty.
It's pretty fresh. Yeah.
She's pretty fresh. 6.6%.
West Coast inspired. This is Jesse's been to California a couple times in the last couple of years and has wanted to make beer like he drank in California.
Love that. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I thought this might have been, my guess would have been this was kind of haze. But so would you consider this West Coast American IPA then?
I mean, when you try, you can tell me, but I think that the sort of firm bitterness is there. I put this in kind of like neo West Coast, put it that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think West Coast rings true for me.
That's it? Okay, beautiful. Love that. Here for it. Not scared of it. How did this one go for you, man?
You know what? I think it's been selling steadily for us. I like Two Flags IPA has been kind of our anchor West Coast IPA for a number of years. But I think more of these sort of reinterpretations of the style, really trying to reflect kind of the what's happening in California now. That's what we've been passionate about, and I think this is a good example of it. So yeah, I'm proud of it. I like this one.
Is this one-off?
This is a one-off.
Come back, one-off. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you never say never, but yeah, this is one of those ones that's here for today, gone till whenever.
Gotcha. Totally understood.
So, so speaking of that, like, The first, like River Hymnal, like another West Coast of yours, is one is one that's been back a few times. Is that did you, when that first dropped, did you have intentions of that one coming back, or did that one, like, you just kind of like got a good vibe from it? It was well received and just like people were asking for it again.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned we have this like sort of sub-tier brands that
Yeah.
that make a return. We have, I used this expression already tonight, but we have tried to hold those lightly. They are like riffs on a theme. And so I think River Hymnal's been an evolving concept. We want a drier IPA. We want a hop forward beer with firm bitterness, and we want to make it better every time we make it. And we are not wedded to doing it exactly the same way we made it before. You're not going to see that with a brand like Sunsplit, where like consistency is so important. Key. And the similar thing, like we had a host of different kind of hoppy lagers. We called them different things. We took different inspiration. One was very New Zealand inspired. One was a little more European. We folded a bunch of the best of those concepts into a beer called Time and Tide, and it's been an evolution of a hoppy lager. And I want to keep it there. I want to keep it as a place where you know what we're trying to do when you see the label, but it might not be identical the next time you have it.
Gotcha.
Right on.
That's dope. Well, with that, folks, get that in you. Cheers.
Cheers.
How do you guys do this? Well, 6 beers, 3-hour conversations, staying completely temperate. I'm impressed.
Well, the temperate thing, let's not go too far there.
Don't give us too much credit.
Yeah, last night we had Ben from Arabella Park on, and that got a little messy towards the end there.
Jeez,
we had a 30-minute conversation about manscaping.
That really went off the rails at the end.
Well, you know how it goes. So usually what we do, that's why we have the glasses here. So like a bunch of these are empty, but a bunch of them like half empty. So then you start at the beginning, they go hard, and then I try to like again out of my then trying to just chill. It doesn't always happen. The responsibility, we're big and old enough to be able to do it, but we don't always do it. So I'm trying out Dondas right now to because we've been talking so much. I think we've been having these more these kind of pretty hectic intellectual conversations about everything, and I feel like that's kind of slowed us down a little bit because we're all thinking a bit more.
All right, I like that.
So it can be a lot, but also we want to make sure we showcase it in the product. But yeah, we typically finish it off after the off air, thankfully. Otherwise, it's imagine trying 6 beers actually down to the bottom. In 3 hours. I mean, you can. It's just not advised.
Well, I can't. Like I mean, you might be able to on your schedule with with when
that's
you get
true.
up, but I'm up at 5:45. That's when my alarm goes off, and thankfully my son is 5:45 is when my alarm goes off.
No, ew, gross, ew, stop it.
And when we record these, sometimes I'm rolling into bed at like midnight at the earliest. Sometimes it's like 12:30, 1:30. So it can get kind of rough. And right now we don't typically do pods the 2 nights in a row, which is what we're doing right now. So taking it a little bit slower tonight, and I'm taking a more conservative sips than I was last night, so that I can still function tomorrow.
Whatever you guys crack code, you figured out a formula that works. So good on you.
It's we do what we can, but it's a community service for the people. We have to do. That's what we're doing, Josh. You know what I'm saying? We're right there. The beers have to be
mere servant, Greg. Yeah,
I just really feel that's what we're doing. That's what we hear. Jesus, it's so ridiculous. No, this is okay. Where are we going from here? Do we want to? Okay, I feel like we've talked about a lot of different stuff. Obviously, this is a lot about the glorious and free. Now, do we just want to make sure before we sort of we can keep riffing on anything as well, but I just want to make sure we haven't missed anything about the glorious and free. Like, was there anything specific that we also haven't touched on as far as the whole project and the concept of it? That you can
I think you've led me to a good place. I mean, I think an open invitation to anybody listening who works at a brewery or thinks this is neat and wants to make this beer, like don't be hamstrung by, the end of May as our deadline. I think that's flexible now, and I think it'd be great to see this continue. I don't think this issue that made this urgent is going anywhere. So get on board. If this is December and you're finding yourself here, please join in. It's never too late to start buying Canadian ingredients and making a great beer with it. So yeah.
No, I think you're great, and I think a great way to think about it is if anyone who owns a brewery in anywhere in Canada, and if you're ever having that feeling that Josh was describing that so many of us in this country have had, kind of where you're walking home on that snowy night and kind of feeling that I wish there was I wish there was something I could do, then this is a great opportunity. And I would, even not only to breweries, I would also pitch that out to anyone in Canada who's if you're growing hops and or if you're or if you do malting or anything like that, if you're involved in the if you do any kind of ingredients that could go into beer, maybe maybe get in touch, and if they could end up throwing that throwing that name on the ingredient list on the on the site there that someone might be able to put in a beer, that could be a great thing too.
Dude, that is such a good point. Is that something you're cool with, Josh? If anyone that thinks they might be able to contribute to maybe add their put their hat in the ring for
that'd be great.
Because I imagine there's that section, and once again, gloriousandfree.beer. There's a section down the bottom here with our glorious suppliers. I love the word glorious, by the way. Huge fan of it. I don't know why, I just really like it. I think it's just fun. And you've got so many different things, even from labels, like label makers, yeast, malting, hops, even clothing here. I'm seeing like a bunch of different local Canadian businesses that could be potential suppliers for any of the people who participate, and just to really put their hat in the ring, because you guys couldn't possibly know everybody they're involved in it. Is that how some of the other breweries kind of put you onto some of these folks as well?
We had our own list at the beginning, but it's grown, and the whole thing continues to grow. So yeah, absolutely. And I mean, frankly, there are suppliers on this list who I had never heard of before we started, and I think it's amazing, and it's an opportunity for folks to buy local.
Which is perfect. I love that. I think it's that's super cool, because there's got to be some people that are listening, like they might not be that might not be on this list and might not have even been aware of it, which is kind of the point. To shout, I don't know if you listen to the pod still, but Houblon Bastien in Quebec, Alex, who is a friend. We've
been a buyer before. They should be on this list. It's a great point, actually.
Yeah, is he still around? I haven't spoken to a while. BASTI Bastien. See, the website. No, nothing says he's not. Oh, okay. Website's still up. Nothing says otherwise. So.
Instagram account is still active.
Yeah.
I remember for some reason, one that's sticking out in my memory is a beer that you guys did with him a little while back with his triple
pearl. I remember. Yeah. That too. Which beer was that again? Do you remember, Josh?
No, I don't. You guys have
the name is escaping me too.
I remember specifically because I always associate. I never heard of Triple Pearl hops until he.
So we made Provincial IPA. That's what it was. We had a series.
Yes.
Going back to this ripping on a theme concept, but yeah, we made I'd forgotten. So good memory, guys.
By the way, I just want to shout this beer. This is fucking fantastic, dude.
Yeah, this is great.
This is so good. Oh, I love this. Nate and I are Westie enthusiasts, aggressive Westie enthusiasts, and I thought this was haze. I didn't know. No. I didn't even really look. To be honest, Nate bought this for me. I've had this in my fridge for a bit and just traveling, trying to catch up. So when I saw this coming, I was like, "Oh, sick! Get to try it on the pod." And then now I'm extra happy. I got some extras. So
you got some more now.
It's just like the perfect. You described the perfect, like a new school Westie, new school West Coast IPA. It's exactly. I love this style, and once again, the hops are like Idaho 7, Simcoe Nectaron, Columbus Cryo. It's
Cryo Columbus is what one an interesting one. Pop up a couple of times now, and it fucking slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I a bit about that beer. Quick shout out too on the name. So obviously we teamed up with the guys at Prince Eddie's to make it from Prince Edward County, but the name's a reference to Al Purdy, who's, in my opinion anyway, one of the greatest Canadian poets of all time, who lived in Prince Edward County. So he had a book called North of Summer, but I just thought it was a great name for a beer coming out in the spring in this country and connects back to the land there. But yeah,
here for
cool.
it.
Yep.
I love it. North of Summer is just such it's kind of whimsical, and then it kind of looks like a summer sky.
That's it, man. You got
a little bit. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. This is fucking fantastic. Okay, so make sure people can do that. The other thing we definitely want to touch on tonight was we're extraordinarily honored. I guess it hadn't happened over the years. We never reached out, but we never did a collab over all these 10 years between us.
What were we doing even?
Probably with our heads up our asses, I would imagine. And like we never we absolutely should have reached out earlier.
No, man, the honor's all ours. I'm thrilled, and I said this before we started recording, but you guys do a service to beer in this province and in this country, and I think it's so amazing that you've been at it for 10 years, and I hope you 50 more.
Appreciate you, man. That's maybe my liver and our livers and our belly areas might not wish that, but I hope so too. I think it's awesome because when we get to be, know folks like yourself and count you as friends, and I think that's like I don't know. I feel like that's what we're on. Once again, the Great Lakes thing. I was like, I could go into almost any brewery in the province, and I almost know somebody that I would consider a friend, and I like in almost every place. I'm like, that is sick. To be able to go in there and be able to support a business and go and see someone like, hey, I'm coming in here to support you and want to go and drink your stuff. I think it's very cool. We're in a very privileged position to do it, and we appreciate you immensely. And doing this beer, we can talk about it at length, which is cool. I know it'll come out just before the event, but when we're doing the beer with all the different breweries, when we pitched an idea to each brewery as opposed to like, hey Josh, let's do a beer. We're like, all right, let's do something specific that
we've got something in mind.
Yeah, and one thing that one of our obviously your sales. What does Farrell do?
Yeah, he runs our sales. So
sales, okay.
He's had a bee in his bonnet about making this beer style for a long time. So
yeah, so Andrew Farrell's a friend of obviously of all three of us, and he had wanted to do a Baltic Porter forever. So Nate mentioned it to me. I didn't actually know this. So Nate was like, when it comes to you guys, I might have pitched a Westie or a Haze or a Crispy. Probably would have been my three things that I would have thought. Or maybe because I love Melody Noir so much, I would be like, why don't we do a riff on a black IPA or something like that? But Nate was like, well, Farrell's been wanting to do a Baltic Porter. I'm like, well, we don't have one in our lineup. That's pretty fun. And we're also doing a collab coffee bean with Found Coffee in Toronto, who's an Australian-owned cafe who just had a massive... I don't know if you saw it at all, the campaign with Vegemite. Did you see anything about that at all?
I did read about this, yes.
The Prime Minister of Australia called the Prime Minister of Canada to be like, stop fucking with him. And they left in, they dropped it. The CFIA, which is a Canadian Food
Inspection Agency.
That's it. Dropped because they were busting his balls about Vegemite. For the vitamin B and folates in it, but those exact same things are in Marmite, which they weren't hassling, and they're also in many flours, like as in cooking flour. And
why are we giving Australians a hard time, man?
I don't know, but honestly, dude, like you fuck with Vegemite, like it's like I'm even looking. I got the little box right, like I can't quite reach it, but I got Vegemite shoes. Whatever, it's there. Believe me.
I mean, that's no small thing. That's cool, dude.
Can you see it? You can actually probably see it. There you go. Look, see, a box of Vegemite, and those black shoes right there are Vegemite shoes. It cost me an extraordinary amount to get my mom to send them to me. But I don't know why they were fucking with it. Vegemite is like, it's the equivalent to Jamaican patties to Jamaicans, or to maple syrup to Canadians. Like it's our cultural thing. So it was very silly, but they cut it. So Leighton at Found has been awesome, and we picked this phenomenal bean. That when we did like an espresso tasting, well, him and Nate, I've seen because Nate's splitting. So they have a roastery in Guelph. So I went down in January and we did a little thing, and the espresso tasted like blueberries. It was insane. I've never had anything like it. It was so good. So I was like, that's the one right there. So we've used it in, I believe 4 beers, and the Baltic Porter is one. And I know we're going to do the can version without it, but I think we're going to do the special keg for the event
with it. Yep.
with the cold brew in it, which is so cool. I love it. And
We're excited about it.
Yeah, man. Do you know the ABV it's going to come out at? It's like probably.
It's heftier. Yeah, it's in. It's in
8,
that.
9?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's around 8. Yeah.
Amazing. I think that's great because it's like we wanted to have a you guys do dark beers like Between Two Evils is one of my favorite beers. I like as far as the annual releases is dark beer in Ontario. I love it. I love when you did the variants where you had the coffee. I think there was one with what was the other? There was one that was 2 variants in a year. There was coffee.
Yeah, that was last year. We did.
Was it vanilla? Vanilla.
Yeah, we did Tahitian vanilla and coconut.
There you go. Coconut. That's what it was.
Yeah, those variants were spectacular.
Yeah, it was just, it's so good. And that was back, I remember getting those beers when I didn't really have as much of an appreciation for them. And now it's like my fucking jam. So it's really sick that you guys do that stuff. And that's really part of the thing that you do exceptionally well. You know, there's so many things you do well, but your dark beers are so great. So to have that and to have the coffee in it, I think it's going to be a real fun one to have at the event, man.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity, and thanks for throwing a party. We're not throwing enough parties in beer anymore, so I actually really appreciate you guys for bringing everybody together and throwing a party. Hopefully, this is the beginning of all of us doing a lot more of it.
I hope so too.
I would love that.
Out of our wheelhouse, to be honest, Josh. Like you guys, we're not really the party initiators, but I don't know. This, if you're gonna do it, this is probably the time to do it. And you know, we've had so many. Like, what's the why not? We've got all of these incredible, you know, there's going to be 40 specifically different beers, 39 breweries, but 40 beers because the catch is splitting a batch. So there's going to be 2 different beers out of that, plus the coffee and then the food, the DJs and stuff. I'm like, all right, well, this is a pretty good opportunity. It did fall in our lap and we're like, all right, let's go. And it's, it's like a cool, and it's not really as much of a celebration of BAOS as it is of just craft beer in general, and just be like, let's all get together and celebrate. Like, look what can be done. That's what we tried to make, like an eclectic list of stuff of, you know, rather than 39 hazy IPAs, which we could have done and would have probably done pretty well. Like, we wanted to have a bit of everything, a bit of all the different styles, you know, from English mild to Baltic porters to Westies to lagers, all different types of lagers, you know, big stouts and smoothies and just everything in between, to just sort of like have a nice kind of something for every non-alcoholic. We even did a non-alc IPA with Harmons.
Cool.
to really sort
really
of
come together beautifully in that way to cover
and
the full range.
It was right, and we looked at the lists like afterwards, and we did it all not looking at it, and we're like, oh, once we like mapped it all out, like how many of each we had, we're like, oh, this is pretty dope. This worked out really nice because it was all the breweries we chose had, you know, skill sets in specific things. So we wanted to lean in. We didn't ever want to go to a brewery, hey, let's do something crazy that's not going to sell. Like, we want to make sure that it was going to sell, because in this economy, the last thing we want to do is ask a favor of a brewery to do a collab and then be like, they're stuck with this thing.
To be clear, we are eyes wide open. We will be selling this Baltic Porter for a while. And that is okay.
And that, you know what? It is May. It's May.
It's May.
I'm
and
sorry,
you know what?
Josh.
If we're drinking it in November, it's only going to be better. I'm not worried.
Well, that is kind of a good point. Are you doing shorties or are you doing tall cans?
You know what? I haven't seen the label yet. I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I've seen the label. Jesse sent it.
It
looked
like a tall can label if I was to guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of what we're doing these days is tall cans. So
it's tall cans. Okay, beautiful. Well, if it's 8%, the tall can kind of seems right. If it was like 10%, like Between Two Evils, and it's
already. Yeah.
Don't be scared. Just jump in. God damn it, it's gonna be beautiful. But no, it's like, it's truly an honor, man. Like, it's really cool. When we were looking at when we finally got the poster together, and we're looking at all the names, we're just like, fuck, man.
Like honestly, just touched that there was this many. Like touched and honored that there were this many breweries that were down to celebrate this with us.
Yeah. So
it's cool, and it's like we talked about earlier. It's rare. There's not a lot of folks doing what you guys do. So I'm not even blowing smoke at you, but you help make the whole thing work.
Appreciate you, man. It's a beautiful
Really
thing,
do.
but it's just like it's so cool to have like the breweries that we've admired for such a long time to be down. And even though we probably should have done something a long time ago, and you know, whatever. Now's better than not.
I think it's
So
going to go so well that you're not going to want to wait 10 years to do the next one. That's my hunch.
no, well, event. I don't know about that, Josh.
No. You're still pre-event. You need to bask in the glory. The day after the event is the day you want to do the next event.
Really? Okay, we haven't got to that yet. So
No.
It's
Nobody wants to do another event before the event.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes complete sense.
That's when you're sure you never do it again.
Right.
You're like, this is not happening again, guys. Shut the fuck up. We're talking about it next year.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. People have already talked about next year. I was like, the thing is, it's because there's 40. It's such a unique thing. I don't even know if it's replicable, as far as like there's 40 collab beers. Like if you're doing a festival and you think, hey, choosing breweries, hey, make something for it, or bring in the freshest stuff that you got, cool. But if you're doing, we're doing the naming, the labels, the recipe, sometimes going to brew days, canning days, something like that, like popping through, like it's
no, that's a pretty big flex. I'm not gonna lie to you. 40's a lot.
Yeah, that's the only reason I don't know if it's possible, because I don't know if everyone
and like the outreach for this started last September,
and it's May.
Yeah.
So it's, we gave everyone a ton of notice, and some people still weren't able to swing. There's only like 4 or 5 that weren't able to, which is fine. And some of them we're going to do later in the year as well, because we'll make it a year of the 10th anniversary sort of thing. So we'll do some later that maybe couldn't make it. I don't even know if it's replicable in that sense, because like, hey, it's our 11th anniversary. Can we get 40 brews? Like, you know what I'm saying? I just don't even foresee that being plausible. Like, I guess once again, we'll talk about it later, but like, it's more just like the collabs. Even if once again it wasn't doing the event, this is something that we would have done regardless, because we want to have the collabs out there, just an excuse to celebrate something cool and celebrate craft beer. Once again, it's not about us, it's about the breweries, and I think it's just so sick. And have you tasted the beer yet? I guess it's probably not quite ready at this point. No,
I haven't yet. Not ready yet, but no, I'm looking forward to it. Keeping
it fresh. I love it. It's
at this point, it's only been in the tank like 10 days.
Yeah. Oh, it was only brewed pretty recently, eh? Oh,
yeah, because I was just there for the brew day last Monday.
I remember that, of course. Honestly, everything's a blur. I don't remember anything. What's going on? I don't remember who I was speaking to. Yeah. Well, because I just got back from Montreal, then I had 3 brew days in a row. Today was my first day. I didn't have to get out of bed in, I don't know, a couple of weeks. It was glorious.
Nice.
And free. But it was I just don't remember anything anymore. I'm like, I was talking, like, before it was just on the pods, you're talking to people, but now I'm like somewhere every day almost, and it's become a bit of a blur. But it's okay. It's like one of the things, you bask in it, and we're, the weather's getting warmer, and as we get closer to the day, hopefully it's the weather just keeps getting better and better, and everyone's feeling more excited, and the trees are blooming and stuff, and we're all sneezing. It's a beautiful thing. I'm here for it. We're fucking going. It's beautiful, man. I appreciate you a lot. So one of the other things we talked about off air was so Glorious and Free is definitely one of a very successful concept as far as the Trans-Canadian brewery collaborations. We're talking about your friends at True History, who are also doing something similar as well. I don't know if we want to touch on that briefly as well. That's super sick that everybody's doing something along these lines.
Yeah, I think so. I really admire what those guys have done at True History. They've launched the Canadian Pilsner Project, similar inspiration. What does it mean to make a Canadian take on Pilsner beer? What does it mean when you use Canadian ingredients to make this beer style that has centuries of history? Our interpretation of it's coming out in the near future. I'm really excited to drink it. But I've had a number of other ones. I had North Star from Burdock, loved it. There's been a ton of great releases and a lot of great enthusiasm for it. I think it's super cool. And honestly, plays into the same rationale, which is like, you want to have a local industry for these businesses that make beer, Canadian beer, possible. You got to support them. They're doing that. I think it's really cool. I think it's very complimentary, and I think it's cool they decided to do it.
It's 100%. Do you feel like there's room for more of things like this? As far as like, you guys are both doing it. Is it something we need to see more of, or is this kind of like, is it better that there's fewer of them, that people jump in? I'm just even thinking logistically, like, is it any thoughts on that, or is it kind of maybe
Yeah, it's a
there's no
good
real
question. This is dangerous. I feel like I'm on hot wings now. I've gone to the to the extreme. I'm ready to just get real honest. But
Oh wait,
I,
we're dropping the bomb on you.
I think
Real hot
my
sauce.
honest take on that is like, of course, there's room for more. Of course, it's not all done. I just think it ought to have a bigger point.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think slapping a maple leaf on a beer and saying buy
It's
it
Canadian.
because things are weird and dicey. That's fine, but it's a little one dimensional, and I think we can do better. And one of the things I really admire about the Canadian Pilsner project is it is multidimensional. It's asking
Okay.
you to think about um, how you make a Canadian version of this beer style that's been around a long time. How do you work with the guys at Escarpment to kind of get the best interpretation of our ingredients here? I think that's great. Um, and at the end of the day, I also think, again, I think beer's superpower is about being bigger than itself. And so I'm always interested in opportunities where beer is facilitating people to do something bigger than themselves. So again, I guess I do take a little bit of a dim view. If all you're doing is making a beer because you're Canadian and saying it's Canadian, you got to buy it, we can do better than that. So let's do better than that.
Well said,
Couldn't
bro.
agree more.
Yeah, I like that. So then, okay, so if there's breweries out there, I guess I asked that because I imagine there might be breweries who are watching and listening and who were sort of like, are we supposed to do something like this? Because I feel like it's like maybe just a coincidence that you both were two breweries in Ontario. Like, it's a different approach, to be fair, but like, should everyone feel like they need to do like to come up with their own version of something like this, or is it more just like, if you know what I'm saying, like that some people might just be like, I don't know, everyone's kind of being all Canadian right now, fuck, do we need to come up with a similar thing, like a project or a concept that we can share that people can jump on, as opposed to just sort of like doing either joining either of these sort of initiatives.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's a great question. I don't have a compelling answer. No, you don't have to do it. No, there's nothing compelling you to have to do Glorious and Free or the Canadian Pilsner Project. And you certainly don't have to come up with your own out of nothing. It's got to. I mean, frankly, it wouldn't work if everybody felt like I just got to do my own thing. But I think it's got to be genuine to you. And I mean, I think you already mentioned tonight. We talked about Black is Beautiful. Brave Noise is another great example.
Great point.
In the U.S., there are a number of breweries who teamed up to brew for L.A. after the fires. I think it's cool when beer finds these niches to say, this is bigger than us, and here's just a small way we can do something with something we care about. It's got to be genuine to you. This was genuine to me. This is my walk in the snow. This made me feel something, and I wanted to do it. Not everybody has to do it, and frankly, it'd be boring if we all did the same things all the time anyway. Lots of people do other stuff, and I think that's great. So no is my short answer to you. But I would say, if this does speak to you, I want you in on it. If you're not already one of these 40 breweries doing this, and you think this is cool, you think this makes sense to you, there's room. Come on in.
Hell yeah. I would imagine that you could probably even encourage like people in different countries, like if like, I don't know, even if you're an American brewery. I don't know why this just sort of like, as you were saying that, I was like, if you're an American brewery, like why not? They could probably do something similar, because at the end of the day, it's support local, and local means wherever you're at. So I would imagine that would probably be a net positive for any beer scene. I was thinking from a listener's perspective, like if you're somewhere in the States and you're listening, you're at a brewery, you're a brewery owner, or you work one or whatever, like, maybe you might, oh fuck, well, what if we do like an all-American beer where we have all-American ingredients or something like that, or you're in England or you're in Australia or something like that. Like, I wonder if that could also be a thing, but maybe it's only Canadian. It's a Canadian focused thing right now because of the specific situation.
You know what? I think there's a couple of things going on there in what you're talking about. Like, yeah, I mean, I go back to drinking that beer in North Carolina and thinking about how I'm drinking Bloody Butcher corn and how it's totally warping my perception of what an adjunct corn lager should be. And I think that's cool. And I think that's always cool. Right. And then I think to myself, like, I like having a passport that lets me hop on a plane and go anywhere in the world. I like that I got the best fruit and vegetables from Mexico all year round. But at the end of the day, I actually think it's really cool when there's stuff that you can only get because you're in a place. There's stuff that's unique to that place in that moment and that is distinct. And I got an appreciation for that I didn't always have. I want that for my country. I want that for where I'm from. I want to think about the cheese in the gas station that you talked about. I think that's so cool and compelling. What is the cheese in the gas station in Iceland or in Hungary or wherever the hell you are? I think those things are neat. I think the weirder it is and the more distinct and the more local it is, it's sort of compelling and interesting. So yeah, I think Glorious and Free is our attempt at being like, what is our interpretation of this beer with what we got available? How do we do that? But yeah, the idea of making something locally is not unique to Canada. It's not unique to us. But I think this one is unique to us, and it's our opportunity to put our stamp on it. I think it's cool.
I love that. Almost feel like cheese in the gas stations.
Cheese in the gas station. Some brilliant man or person came up with that. Yeah,
I think it's pretty sweet. I mean, I do like Glorious and Free. I think that's probably a better name, but cheese in the gas station is pretty fucking sweet too. I think it's pretty dope. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
No, that's really great perspective. Yeah, I was just like I was trying to really picture from different perspectives of people listening or watching, and just like how could. If they're not in Canada and they can't participate, what else could somebody do to sort of like, at the end of the day, wherever you are, I guess you do want to sort of be proud of local. You're right, and if even as travelers, as the three of us as Canadians, if we were to go to Finland or something, like I want to go to the breweries there and see them working with ingredients or things that we can't find anywhere else. And they're like, oh man, this is unique as fuck. This is really cool. Whether it's like the food at the brewery, no, maybe not the beer itself, or just something that sort of like plays to that local climate and the agriculture and everything that's happening there. So you can sort of really tap in and feel like you're a part of something. Like even through maple season in Quebec, when the cabana souks everywhere you go on the street, and they have the what's the shit, the rolling maple thing where you put on the snow. What's it called?
Maple
whatever, maple taffy. Like even just that everywhere and stuff like that. I was just like, man, it just felt like there was some sort of cultural cohesiveness around. I just knew that, like, you know what, maybe it's just a sap from a tree that they made into this brown liquid that was sweet and beautiful, but it was just everywhere, and it just made you feel like, oh man, this is sick. Some beers had it in it, and then you go to some place and then the poutine had it in it, and it just felt like, oh, you're a part of sort of something that this is the time of year, this is what's happening, and you go in the fall, and then there's apple everything, and like, yeah, it's really tapping in, just as really being as local as possible. Maybe that's what this is all teaching us, is just really like lean in as much as everybody can, and as producers like you guys are, that's sort of like maybe the onus is on the producers to find other producers of ingredients to therefore, like, like you said, make something that makes something, which I like the way you said that earlier. That was super cool.
Yeah, there's a ton there, but that's it. We ask people all the time, pay a premium to support our business because we're local to you. We think we've got a quality angle, whatever it is. We're asking people for that. Let's also think about it, like, what does that look like down the line from us? It doesn't stop at us. Someone told me once, we were talking about local beer, and there was this question that came up about, like, well, what is a local beer? Is it just that it's made here? Or like, what about the stuff that you made it with? Does some of that play into what's local? And, this person was arguing back, and they said, I don't know, I get a local carrot at the farmer's market. Do I think about where the seed for that carrot came from? Or does the fact that it grew in the dirt in my town make it a local carrot? I think we can do better than an American seed or a mass-produced international carrot seed to make a local carrot. I think we can make a local beer that's made of local stuff, and I think we can explain that to people in a way that's compelling. That's part of the challenge with this. But I think trying to go beyond ourselves is important here.
Dude, that's sick. I fucking love that. I'm just getting the visual. That is so dope. Like having the seed that is local, that is heirloom, like the corn, like the first beer we had tonight, like having that, like, heirloom, whatever the hell it is, and knowing that seed came from something that's generational, locally grown in the local dirt. Like, it's just, if you look at like whatever 1,000 years ago, that's what it would have been. Less than that, 500 years ago, 200 years ago, before the Industrial Revolution, essentially, anytime before that, 100 years ago, like that wouldn't that's how things were. Our
That's how beer
grandparents.
would have been. You drinking beer in Alberta 150 years ago? I mean, you're necessarily drinking something that got grown in a field somewhere nearby to that brewery. You don't have the luxury of buying New
No.
Zealand hops in Edmonton. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't a thing you could do. And I mean that there's constraint in that, but there's also
Yeah.
sort of a beauty in that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what, do you know what it is? It's like we were talking earlier about like the cycles of beer and the cycles of different things of popularity or whatever, and like generational, like millennials and like people not liking, kids not liking beer because their parents like beer. And it's kind of like that too. Like it's the cycle of like the urban push. Like I grew up in the suburbs. You said you did too, Josh. And Nate, I know you grew up in Burlington.
I did too. Actually, discovered recently, Josh and I actually both grew up in Burlington, Ontario. So
I didn't know this.
And then wound up coming to Ottawa. So we actually both grew up in this like in basically the same suburb.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
That is really fun. And I grew up in the suburbs of Melbourne. So my first thing was like, oh, I'm going to move to the city. Get the fuck. I'm always in the city. Why would I even move out? So we all moved to the city. So you move to the city. You're like, yeah, sick. Yeah, city apartment. Yeah, give me a fucking top floor. Yeah, like all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden now I'm like, I'm tired of this shit. Get older now. I'm like, I want to buy a house. And now I'm like, I got a house and I got a basement and I got a bit of a yard and a garage. I'm like, it's cool. I'm like, but then I remember going to Matron and Justin being like, see that endpoint? Like, yeah, that's where our lane goes to. Yeah, we think about putting a house there and a basketball court. And you have, I'm like, oh fuck. Like we were with him a couple like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, bro, you told us that like in 2021, and we've never forgotten that you told us that. I don't know why, it was the coolest shit. So now like land is the goal, and what's land? Land, why do we want land? So I can grow my own carrots from my own local seed, and I want to grow my own everything because I want to control or what. It's almost like you come this full circle where like you go back to that like humanity moves into this urban thing where you're all working together in this smaller place, and there's a lot of activity and it's a buzz and it's fun, particularly when you're younger. And as you kind of like grow older, you just sort of like, well, I want my space to do my own thing, but I want to control what I eat and what I'm growing and what's going on. It's sort of like all of that kind of ties in. Well, I want extra local. Well, if I'm going to buy anything, I want it to be super local, and that includes beer, that includes wine, that includes cheese, that includes all the different things. If you can't make it, it's sort of this like ethos that seems to maybe be inherently human. Like you just can't escape it. Like you know where we're all at, and then as the people of our ages in the sort of like late 30s, early 40s type of thing, that's kind of where we're at in life, where we're like moving towards this, I don't know, this extra super duper hyper local thing. Like we went to Florida in at the end of January. We had to tell about 6 different businesses, hey, we're not dead, we don't hate you, we're going away for a while. Butcher, fish person, cafes, like just so you know, we're going away. Please just know, like we'll be back soon. Like just, and I just thought that was like hilarious because we're just in, it's not the smallest, it's the 3rd biggest city in Ontario, in Hamilton. It's Toronto, Ottawa here. And that's the level of local that we're at, that we had to tell people and give them a heads up.
No, I think you're speaking to something though, Craig. I think like connection is currency. You know, I think people feel that.
Yes.
And they're like, they want, I don't know. I think there's a purpose in it. And even just bring it back to beer for a moment. What are the most exciting and compelling concepts in beer? They're about stuff from somewhere. I think about Italian Pilsner. I think about Guinness. What makes Guinness Guinness? It's the water in Dublin that makes Guinness Guinness. That's why that beer style worked where it came from. I think about Northeastern IPAs, hazies, that emerged from a place at a moment in time. And I don't know, all of these things connect back to some form of connection to a place and a moment and a people. I think that stuff's cool. I think that stuff's timeless. And you can still want to be inclusive, and you still want to be open-minded and open to the world, and not tribal. You know, like we started this conversation talking about the ugly side of nationalism, and I think that's a real threat. But I do think humans want connection, And I don't think we should necessarily lop connection in with ugly nationalism. I think people want to know where something is from, and it's cool and compelling. And that connection you have with your local butcher, and knowing where the meat came from, like, yeah, let's apply that to beer. Let's apply that to other things. Glorious and Free is an attempt at that feeling in that moment.
And I think the thing that separates it from the from the ugliness of it is that, like, you can have those moments and connections anywhere. It doesn't have to be where it doesn't have to be where you're from. You can have you can have those moments in time anywhere, anywhere you are at any point in your life.
That part. That is so important, Nate. And I feel like when we were in Florida, we went to local cafes that we knew were small, that weren't chains. We tried to go to the, obviously Trader Joe's is the GOAT, but like you want to go to like some fun local small butchers, some small places to get the stuff. And like, it's like exactly it. Wherever you are, go local. If you're traveling, go local, because isn't that a better experience? Like if you're in France, or if you're in if you live out here and you go to Ottawa, like go to the small producers, go to some local charcuterie place or whatever it is, a local greengrocer to go and get your vegetables or something. Just that's the experience, because that's the real experience of where you're at. If you're in Africa, if you're in South America, like go as local as you possibly can. It's kind of just, it is what it is. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? If you're going to McDonald's in Peru, like duck, like what are you doing?
You know, my favorite political writer in Canada is a woman named Shannon Proudfoot. She writes for the Globe and Mail, and she's talked about, she's similar age, went to journalism school. I went to journalism school. I don't know. I think she's compelling. She says she just keeps a sign on her desk to remind her to tell people how weird it was. And when you read her stories, the thing that I love about them, the thing that makes them compelling, is she's always giving you this sense of a story and this sense of what was going on that made it weird and unique. She talks about like the vibe in the Oval Office the day that Mark Carney was visiting with the president. Anyway, this is her thing that she does, is she remembers to tell you how weird it was. I think people like that. I think they want to know what makes this weird, what makes this unique, what's up with the cheese in the gas station. That is like the spice of life that people want. We don't want everything Amazonified, and that is to a great and enduring credit.
Yeah, man. Fuck. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's all those small weird things. I was like driving around Montreal. I'm like, oh yeah, these one-way streets are long as fuck. Like, oh, I thought Hamilton roads were bad. Montreal was 100x as bad. Okay. The coffee was so good. It was out of control. I could not believe how, once again, I lived there for 10 years to the day. And I guess we moved 3 years, and I'd been once really quickly for a weekend, but that was it. And I couldn't believe how all these little small things, I was like, yeah, it was weird. All the weirdness in good and bad. The best ramen that I've ever had is in Montreal. We had it. I can't have ramen now for a little bit because nothing's going to match what I just had. And it was all these little small weird things, that the way that the city works, and it felt so familiar yet so foreign at the same time. And I'm like, this is legitimately beautiful. I was genuinely very happy to go back to see that, and I think that you got to do that wherever you are. Just soak it up, be as local as you can, and embrace the weirdness. That's a cool way to look at it. Like, look at the weirdness and just be like, all right, cool, this is how these mans do it. All right, let's
don't eat McDonald's in Peru, man.
Don't eat McDonald's in Peru.
My God, no.
When I was about 20 years ago, I lived here, and then I traveled around America and then Europe, and I was what one would call in today's parlance a basic bitch. And I didn't know what to do sometimes, and I ate McDonald's in almost every city in Europe. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have been able to handle anything else because I was 23 and I didn't know nothing about nothing.
But you don't know at that age. You
don't even know. And it was sometimes like my brother got food poisoning in Barcelona because we didn't eat McDonald's. And we're like, fuck yeah. Then we ate McDonald's afterwards. Yeah. So like it was one of those things. I would never do that again. I, go to. There's no way you would go to somewhere like that. You would just only want the local when we were in Montreal. That's all we did, and I'm very grateful. It's like even just the basics out there, what we would call places we used to always go, are just so exceptional. I was like, this is fantastic, and it really gives you a vibe of the place. And I know you could argue that for a lot of different cities. It's very cool, and I think that seems to be kind of like the message of the episode. So while the Glorious and Free is the main talking point, like this is what Glorious and Free is trying to push is that local thing, which is why we're harping on it all so much, and what it actually means to people, and what it means to the not only just the businesses but the people that employs. Like like you said, Josh, earlier, like I think the OCB put out, it was some like 600 something billion worth of GDP a year is produced by employees of craft breweries alone, something like that. I remember when we did our link up talk in 2023 at OCB, there was numbers like that were just bonkers. That's what the industry supports. That's how much, how many families is that? How many households is that? That's incredible. And that's just from buying beer like this, from Dominion City. That is just, how many people do you employ? How much payroll tax do you pay? I know what I pay, and it's a lot. And imagine what you pay. That goes hopefully in the right places to make the communities better, and just keeps getting. Then they get that money, although the employees get the money, and they hopefully put it back into other local businesses and keeps it all going. And that's maybe what all of this nonsense has taught us, is to focus on that a little harder, to grow what we have and kind of almost take us back in time, as opposed, as far as we've grown as a species. Like maybe some of the things that we all used to do back in the day weren't so bad and weren't so backwards. Maybe we had it kind of right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of philosophical.
No, that's well said. Yeah, no, sometimes I'm ready to be Amish, but only in 1997. I'm like, 1997 was the amount of technology that I needed.
That's all you needed. No smartphones, no mustaches, absolutely no mustache. You need to get rid of that. All of us need to shave that off. That's where we're going. How do you guys feel about a quick bathroom break, and then we can hit that last beer and bring this bad boy home?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Boom. And we are back.
Back again.
Do you want we just learned? Josh, tell him what you just told us.
I like flags. Yeah, no, I do. In my defense, we had a prolonged conversation about what it means, but I do like that they're short form symbols. I like that they're not fixed. I like that, like, what it means today isn't necessarily what it means tomorrow. I think it's interesting.
I think that's like a really cool perspective, because it's just a small little thing, but you look at it, particularly you look at like in the context of like the Olympics or something, and you go and see that little maple leaf, or you see whatever it is, the flag, that you just like, and you just moved, and you're like, yeah, that's my people, bro. Like, fuck yeah, that's my shit.
It can evoke a lot of emotion, and like positive and negative, like as Josh was saying, like, and it shifts with time and with with the climate and and so many other things.
But I guess at the end of the day, it makes you feel something. And as humans, it's a symbol, and that's what I guess you got to remember. It's a symbol of something, and hopefully it means something positive. And yeah, I don't know. I just never heard anyone really say that, and I was like, yeah, I kind of always. To me, when I moved away, I don't know about if you guys have experienced it, but moving away from where you're from, right? The first thing I did when I moved to Canada, I had a big Australian flag on the wall. Like, I brought my big ass, I don't know where it is now, but I had a big ass one. But even when I lived here the first time, I had a Canadian flag, and I worked at Jackasses in Scarborough Town Center. And that was my main thing. And my original co-host, I met him there, Scott, and other mates there. And I got everybody signed it. So had this big ass Canadian flag full of all the signatures of everyone I met here and all the experiences I had. And I had that on my wall in Australia, the Canadian flag, because I was always was so enamored with it. I was like, it's beautiful. I'm like, this is sick. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So like having people sign a flag, I'm not sure if that's like sacrilegious to get people to deface. It just,
I'm good with it.
Thank you. Okay, as long as you both. But well, I guess I'm Canadian now too, so I can also be cool.
Yeah,
with it
you
too.
get to decide.
Yeah, god damn it. But it's like, yeah, there's something about that you just want to have the flag, but also have a Canadian flag there, an Australian flag, have American flag because I got it on what's it called, 4th of July, and I just thought it was really funny because it was free, and I wanted to have America flag. This is once again almost a year ago. Things were very different a year ago, but yeah, there's just something cool about all of that. You know, having that sort of symbolism. I like it. I like that. I just hadn't thought of it in the way that you're just discussing. I thought that was super cool. So to bring it on home tonight, we're going to go back to the Crispies, and we're going to go to this little gem right here, the old Darkest Hour. Come on now. There we go. I need a little bit.
Yeah.
There. The dark lager, little shorty. Here for it with the beautiful I don't know if all of these beers had it. I'm thinking actually, you know what, this is the first one that did. This is the old school Dominion logo with the matte, I don't know if matte's the word, but the rough label,
the textured label. Yeah, you
textured
know what,
label.
Right
the new ones that are flat, I prefer the textured, but the flat ones are forest film, so they're actually made as a byproduct of the forestry industry, and they're a lot more sustainable. So we've accepted the reduction in tactile quality.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like they're less environmentally friendly. Is that really the TLDR on that one?
The old school matte ones are not recyclable. The new school ones are both made from a forestry product, and they are recyclable. So we like them better for that.
Completely understood. What's the material then? Is it just some sort of plastic or something that's not as recyclable?
Yeah, so yeah, the BOP ones are plastic, and that's the matte one you're drinking now. And the smooth ones are this product called forest film. It's literally made from it's like a byproduct of sap from like a pine tree when it's harvested.
No shit. So they're like really genuinely compostable.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And does that, I guess that's probably a part of like when they recycle the cans, they kind of can, the labels like melt off or something?
That's right. Yeah, and it's basically rediverting a waste product. And anyway, it's our supplier Lorpon, who's a glorious and free supplier, but they're a label printer in Mississauga, Ontario, and they're great.
Oh yeah.
They came up with it.
I love that. Here for it. Yeah, this texture though, to be fair, was just always
it's pretty nice.
It's pretty sweet, to be honest. It's the thing I always associated with Dominion.
Yeah,
but,
like you say, it's kind of like a tactile experience. It's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's also not the end of the world.
No,
if you guys keep talking about it, you're going to make me become less sustainable. I miss it sometimes.
You know what? What's a few trees? Okay, maybe not. I can remember. Well, with that, this is the dark lager. Look at that head, just glorious.
Yeah, fantastic pour,
mate. Cheers. Get that in your
cheers.
Gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Nice little.
The nose is spectacular.
Ooh. Glorious. Is this a Tamave? According to our good friends at Untapped here, says
that was the original inspiration. That's right. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, there was a whole kind of Czech myth around basically like this hero who would emerge in the country's darkest hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Who's the hero?
The Knights of Blannick Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can Google it, but there's a whole story basically. But yeah, it's a Czech legend.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The nerd in me was itching to say, "Is it Batman?"
It basically King Wenceslas is sort of the reference point, but let's go with Batman too. That's fine.
That name sounds familiar. Was that from some song, like a Christmas song? King Wenceslas.
Definitely a Christmas song about him.
Yeah, right. I fuck with Christmas songs. I don't fuck with Christmas songs, but I remember in primary school they made you, and you got down with that. All right. This is fantastic, bro. There's nothing. I love dark lagers so much.
Yeah.
And once again, I really feel like you guys look at it. Look at that.
Spectacular.
We could sleep on that. That is a pillow.
Yeah.
That is meringue. We could make a pavlova, my guy. It's fantastic. I feel
That's
like you
so
guys.
Australian. I love that.
Yeah, we got 3 pavlova beers in the
Cool.
thing because you know what, you got to lean into it, Josh. You got to lean in flags. You got to lean into the symbols.
Symbols.
Which I learned today. I hadn't really thought of it like that before. This is spectacular, dude. Is this a year round or this is a here? Because it's got a decent amount of check-ins. So
very occasional beer for us.
Occasional beer. Okay.
One that like we'll never stop making fully, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Our next dark lager is the one we made with you, so I'm excited about that.
Yes, which is
I'm so excited for it.
I guess technically a porter is a lager, isn't it? Like a Baltic porter.
It is.
A Baltic porter is a
But it
lager.
is.
Normally
Yeah.
a porter's not, but yeah.
No, yeah, which is phenomenal. I just feel like that's that's why we're extra excited, because once again the Melody Noir was the one of the first ones, because that was an older beer that we had, and then you keep doing the Between Two Evils every year, which is just a banger. So it's I really feel like that's the brew team is I guess partial to the style to darker beers. Is that accurate or fair?
I think they feel like they're a challenge and have always liked to embrace the challenge. That's sort of my read on it. But yeah, I think it's like one of those things we don't do all the time. And so when we do it, we're always trying to advance where we left things last time. That's the hope anyway.
That's beautiful. I love it. No, this is fantastic, man. This one, so I guess by the time this will come out in a couple of weeks, but this beer may or may not be gone by then. Potentially.
This beer is probably gone by then.
Probably
hunch.
gone.
Yeah.
And you'll probably bring it back.
And if you missed it, you're just going to have to buy it next time we make it.
And you absolutely should. Oh, God. I don't know why. I feel like dark lagers, and particularly Tomaves, is just like, oh, God tier. I love it. It's exceptional. I love it. So to bring this bad boy on home, is there anything else that people need to know about the Glorious and Free? I feel like we really went in tonight, like we were saying. I don't know if we said this on air or off air. I guess we've had a couple breaks, but I feel like tonight we got a little philosophical about it all and got a little deeper into sort of the meaning behind everything, which was, I think that's important, because maybe not everybody would consider some of the things that we discussed tonight as far as, the importance and the weight of those things. As to why you should or it could be focusing on local. I hope that we all illustrated those points pretty well, and I feel like we definitely, we did our darndest. But the Glorious and Free project, by the time this comes out, once again, it'll kind of be like mid-May-ish. You're going to be having the Dominion City one as a LCBO summer seasonal. And there are still other ones. You're basically going to be extending the program for the foreseeable future until it doesn't make sense anymore, I imagine, to continue to have people involved in it. And we're highly encouraging of that. Is there any sort of other message to breweries, that anything else they need to know that perhaps we didn't cover, or just sort of like maybe a last minute sort of like pitch to be like, hey guys, this is what it is. We'd love to have you.
No, I think we've covered it well, but I think you did drive home the point that it's not too late to join, and really, yeah, it's an opportunity to do something for yourself, encourage your fans to get behind you, but also for you to get behind the suppliers that make what you do possible here in Canada, and for all of us together to do something positive for the communities that we're part of. So that's the whole big idea, and if that speaks to you, would love to have your brewery part of our campaign.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, breweries, gloriousandfree.beer. Check that out. All the information is there, the different suppliers. If you are a supplier, once again, reach out via the website there. There's a contact form where you can submit and send all your details to be added to that list as a potential supplier, whether it's hops or malt or yeast or anything else. I imagine that it'd probably be helpful to have any other, maybe there's local suppliers of adjuncts, fruit puree or vanilla or whatever, things like that. Is that the type of things that would be included, or is that sort of a little out of scope?
No, I don't think it's out of scope. I mean, if you're someone who's got something that you think matters for beer, I think what we've got now is a network of breweries that are interested in this, And so, whether it fits into this recipe or not, I think it'd be great to be able to pass on that information to the breweries that are down. So
Okay,
come on in.
Bring it all in. Okay, beautiful.
Come on in.
And like, I guess lastly, where do you hope that this goes? I know we kind of might have touched on that earlier, like the ultimate goals. I think we might have touched on, but like if you really like, there's like goals are different than maybe hopes. Since we've been getting so sort of intricate on everything tonight, like, is there any sort of like just from Josh, not even from the company, like, where do you personally, since this was your idea that you came up with while walking in the snow, is there anything that you sort of really hope that this achieves, or that sort of this ends up? Is there any sort of like, oh man, it'd be sick if like X happens or whatever?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at this point we're over the horizon of what I could see and hope for when we first started this beer. To be honest, our first instinct was we're just going to do this, and it wasn't until sometime later that it clicked that I was like, this could be an invitation to other breweries to be part of this. We talked about Black is Beautiful and Brave Noise and other campaigns that have done a great job of bringing in big groups of breweries around a cause and beer fans around a cause. I didn't start there. So we're already past where I could see and what I could hope for. I think the biggest thing for me now is just when I hear about, who is going to benefit and the impact that these beer sales are going to make. That's the stuff that gets me really excited at this point. So I think the next phase for us is we're going to do a roundup with everybody who's been involved to try to really quantify what that impact has been, is. And
like say the volume of donations and all that type of stuff.
And what it did. And I think explaining that to people is going to be powerful. And then I would love if like what you're talking about makes sense. If this is going to be something that resonates with people in an ongoing way, I think this has renewed our commitment to wanting to work with local suppliers forever. A lot of the ones we're working with, we've worked with before, but we don't work with them all the time. There isn't always a beer going with their stuff, and maybe there ought to be. So if we get there and 40 other breweries get there, that's a great start.
Such a good point. I love even more that, like, for you, that you were like, this forced you to do that. And then you're like, hey, we could actually rock with these guys like ongoing. There's no reason to not use these guys. And I think that's even like cooler if people are watching and then like seeing it from the outside and being like, oh, well, the people who came up with it are now committing to things that perhaps they weren't working with local breweries, local businesses and local suppliers as much as before. Like,
yeah, and to the extent it's helpful, like I just want to be transparent. We're not saints. We don't, not every beer we make is always made with local ingredients, and we can also be better. And so some of that is there for anybody, and wherever you're at, there's an on-ramp to getting to be part of this. You don't have to pass some moral test to qualify.
I like that as well, because like at the end of the day, sometimes you're gonna need Citra, and it is what it is. And then whatever happens when contracts run out, and if tariffs end up happening, then I guess that bridge will be crossed when the time comes. But at the same token, then maybe there are the malt options. Maybe like there's some hops that can't be replaced. It's completely. I think everyone's at the point where they absolutely understand. Nate and I've had that conversation with a number of people. Like, what are you going to do when the contracts expire? Well, like, we'll see. But at the very least, there's a lot of things. If your yeast is out of the country, then perhaps you got a number of local options, or if your malt. So those two, at the very least, seem to be something that aren't the largest challenge to work with somebody locally on. So if it just like contributes, even if it contributes a few % of people to get into that, then that's statistically significant number of people that or businesses that are pushing that money locally as opposed to abroad, and that adds up over time, man. So it's a beautiful thing, and we definitely applaud you for doing this and taking the risk and putting the brand out there to do it and encouraging people. And it's just man, it's what we need to see, and I feel like that's why you guys have been leaders of the craft beer scene for such a long time, man. For over 10 years now. It's a beautiful thing to watch, to see you guys continue to evolve and grow, and to do things like this that are genuinely meaningful for the scene at large. And for people to imagine if you're a brewery that's been open for a year and you see someone like Dominion City doing this, you're like, fuck, yeah, that's sick, man. Like let's get involved in that, or at the very least, even if they don't get involved, they're inspired by the fact that you rolled the dice and did this stuff and then got people involved in it. And then, maybe they take inspiration without getting involved because there's that kind of gray area where you can't prove it, but there's people who've seen it and they're inspired by it. And maybe for whatever reason, they don't want to, or they can't participate, but it changes the way that they think, or it plants that seed that'll germinate eventually and get that. And I think that in and of itself is all valuable. There's no, so good for y'all, man, for doing this. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kindness and the support, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have so much time to just talk about ideas with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. So love the space you make for beer in Ontario and for the people who make it, and excited for your next and what comes ahead. So thank you.
Genuine honor and a pleasure, brother. It's awesome. And just like exploring these ideas, just so fun tonight. Like I really enjoyed this. I feel like we're all just bouncing around it in ways we haven't really been before, Nate. Do you think, like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, it's true. Yeah. Like we got really deep tonight, and we got to like kind of explore these ideas in a way that we don't that we don't often get to. So like it's a real pleasure to get to explore these ideas with someone who we've gotten to know really well over the years, and who we feel we can riff with on on things like this. So thank you for your time and for being this open with us to kind of explore this. This has been a real treat.
Likewise, thank you. Yeah, this is great.
Appreciate you, brother.
Okay.
So stick around afterwards. We'll finish up off air. But where can everybody find Dominion City online and any information, once again, about Glorious and Free?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us at dominioncity.ca, and all the information about the campaigns at gloriousandfree.beer. And our beer should be back, hopefully, by the time the podcast is out, and hitting LCBO shelves if you live in Ontario. So
go scoop it up, support, tap the beer ambassador on the shoulder and be like, get more of this shit. Support local. It's a beautiful thing. Josh, you're a champion, brother. Thank you so much. Once again, stick around. We'll finish up off air. But folks, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification button, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, at Nathan Does Beer. Check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, not for us, but for Josh. Give it for Uncle Josh. Give it for Dominion City, for Glorious and Free, because you want to hear more of that. You want to hear more of phenomenal breweries, wherever they're from, talk about what they do. And that's what it is. It's not about us. We're just the conduits. We're just the messengers of that. And love you folks. We'll see you in the next one, y'all. Cheers, guys. Peace.
Cheers.
Peace.